meeting to order. I ask you please to stand for the invocation. Remain standing for the pledge of flags. Father, we're thankful for this another opportunity to come to this meeting this evening. Those of us who are elected to do the business for this great county, we just ask for your wisdom, your guidance in everything that we hear, deliberate, and make decisions upon this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. First item of business is to consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. Our clerk has informed me that during the preparation of the agenda that you make would they have picked up it correctly?
No, they have not picked
Okay.
it correctly, because you need to add it first.
Okay. This board has previously approved doing the second reading at the same time if it's a unanimous decision in planning board hearings. So that second reading has been left off. The board has been presented with an amended agenda which has the second reading including on it. So I would ask the board if there's no other changes or corrections to approve an agenda that has been presented to us, which includes the second reading, which would be items number 7 through 12 of our agenda.
I'll make a motion, Chairman, that we approve the amended agenda as presented with the addition of the second readings on all the zoning matters.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended with adding the second readings. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item. Consideration to approve the minutes for the December 1st, 2015 regular commissioners meeting. Any changes, corrections, questions? Motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Should be noted that public comment should be limited to our agenda items only, and that documents from this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. First item, consent agenda. We have one item on that. That is the consideration to approve sanitation releases as submitted by the sanitation department. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kiefer, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. First item, new business, consideration to approve the revised plat for Park West subdivision, Phase 3A.
Mr. Chairman, you previously approved back in December of last year a final plat for Phase 3A. March 16th of this year, new flood maps were approved and effective March 16th. The developer wished to file the plat with the updated subdivision or updated flood lines. That would not require your approval. All the lots are the same. Upon review, there's a note on the plat, note 5, saying access and maintenance rights are granted to the county. Open space A on sheet 1 of the plat, there was no access to it, so we asked them if they could provide us access. We are not to maintain the open space lot, but in the event we need access, we didn't have it to you note block 207 and 208, there's now access with open space A, and that's why we're bringing this to you for approval.
So other than the flood lines, the main change is to lot 208A, that's the section between lots 207 and 208 has been
Correct, that's been added.
added to the original that was already approved by this board,
Correct.
which is there to give us access easement to that area in the back. No other changes?
No, sir.
Any questions from the board? Motion.
I make a motion to go with staff recommendation, alternative number 1, and approve the revised plat for Park West, Phase 3A.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Kiefer, and the third by Commissioner Lowe. All in favor? All in, any opposed? So carried. Next item, presentation of the Effingham County financial statements and auditor's report. All right, I see our auditors are in the audience. Finance director over here, who's talking to us? Or a little bit of everybody?
We generally go through the financial statements each year and then have the auditor's comments at them.
Okay. How about it?
The presentation tonight is for our June 30th, 2015 financial statements. We will go through our actual financial statements, the MD&A, revenue and expenditures and fund balance. We'll go through our financial operating and audit results, and then comments from our auditors that are here for this evening.
Please pull that microphone around. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yes.
Thank you.
We've tried to each year do these slides in a concise manner that hopefully everyone is able to follow. The first slide is our summary of expenditures by fund. We have within that slide, and each one of these slides is laid out the same. So the first column is our general funds, then our special tax district, then our SPOS, other funds, and then total government funds. Our general fund this year, we had total expenditures of $26,781,301. We have done that by category, so you will see the categories of general government, judicial, public safety, public works, health and welfare, recreation, and development. And then we add for the other funds, our capital outlays, our intergovernmental items, and then our debt service. So again, our general fund was at $26,781,302. It's comparable to last year, and each one of those items is for your review. Our special tax district, we actually make transfers out of that special tax district, and so we'll get to that in just a minute. Our SPOS, we had capital outlays of $6,377,642, and our intergovernmental outlays of $1,187,177. The intergovernmental outlays are those that are to the city. So the first piece of that is the actual items that we did. Just to mention some of those items, we did Blue Jay this year as far as roads. We purchased a fire engine, the tower system. We did an extensive amount of work with our ash roads, Zitwire Road, Bunyan Kessler Road, and then also to the purchase of the land for the recreation department. Those were primarily the items that made up that $6 million. As far as our other governmental funds, our other governmental fund outlays were $8,135,651. for a total of $42,481,772. Last year, we had a request to reference this within our annual financial reports, so you will see that is on page 18 of the annual financial report. As far as revenues, our summary of revenues, again, the layout is general fund, special tax districts, cost, and other funds. Our revenue for this year in general fund was $28,039,508, of which the primary source of revenue is, of course, our property tax, which is $15,646,818. Our sales tax this year was $5,832,843, which was slightly up from last year. And then each one of the other ones followed in suit, so we were very close to the prior year's revenue. As far as our special tax district, we took in $3,097,036, and as you remember, that is from our insurance proceeds, also to our franchise fees and our PILs. SPLOST on sales tax, we took in $7,927,327. Intergovernmental was $1,133,984, and then also to investment of $16,243. Our other funds was a total of $4,820,001 for a total of all government funds of $45,037,899.
Joanna, please bring us
Yes.
just a couple of, a few examples of what the other governmental funds are.
Sure. Other governmental funds would be things such as our date funds, the sheriff's special revenue funds, the prison special revenue funds, impact fees, drug seizure, state condemnation, E911, county jail, fire taxing district, inspections and zoning, senior citizens, and hotel and motel. You asked that question last year. This particular slide just gives us a synopsis of that information as far as revenues and expenditures, what that net difference was, where we also received money from other areas as far as other financing sources and transfers. And so it just gives us a roll-up of what went into our net fund balance in each one of those particular funds. For instance, in other financing sources and transfers, that $275,000 that was in the general fund would be made up of things like the transfers to the landfill and the transfer to senior citizens. We did transfer money into the general fund from the educational fund, if you remember. Y'all approved us doing that and closing that particular fund. So that's a net of all those different sources. As far as the special tax district, that $4,398,304, that actually was transfers out to fire of about $1.4 million. To our senior citizens, we transferred out about $100,000, or over $100,000. We transferred out to water and sewer a little over $1 million, $31,000, and then to the wastewater treatment, we transferred over about $1.6 million, a little bit over $1.6 million.
How much fire? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Fire was $1.4 million. As far as SPLOST, those transfers in that particular case would have been off the debt service. And then our other governmental funds, so that you're looking at a net fund balance difference going into this next year of $657,911 that was added to the general fund. Special tax district, actually fund balance went $1,301,268 to the negative. SPOS $2,860,282, and then other governmental funds went to $2,967,208. So the net effect was about $500,000. The next slide slide is just a summary of that information as far as what our beginning fund balance was, what those net differences do to our fund balance, and then our ending fund balance. And you'll see that on page 18 of our audited financial statements. Next slide is a presentation of our actual fund balance. That's our assets and our liabilities, and then what our net financial position is. As far as cash within the general fund, we had $12,370,649. Restricted cash of about $172,179. Accounts receivables of $1,940,000, along with other $1,025,661. When we say other, those would have been prepaids that we paid out. As far as our financial liabilities, accounts payable and accrued liabilities were at $1,429,000. Our performance bonds that we hold, $28,100, and then our unearned revenue of $65,031 for a net of $1,522,000. Our deferred inflows and resources, those basically are just unavailable revenue, and that's from property tax that we did not have available. That's $842,004, and then our net financial assets and liabilities would have been $13,144,886. We then have within restricted funds, as far as our net financial position, $2,706,380. Those would be, of course, what's listed, which would have been inventory or aggregate of those performance bonds, the amount that we have to keep for the landfill insurance, and prepaids. Restricted as far as service delivery contracts, those were paid out in 2014. And then we do have $4.2 million as far as committed, which is termed the rainy day fund, and then unassigned of $6,238,356.
What is the 2.706? What is that again?
That would have been anything that we have in inventory, okay? Anything that's performance bonds. We've taken performance bonds, so we have to have those on hand and keep those on hand, so they're restricted in nature. The landfill assurance, we have to, because of the old landfill, we have to restrict so much money that's governed by the state, and there's a certain percentage each year, and that percentage is added, and we have to keep those funds on hand for that. I think it's about 1.2, 1.4.
Because it might cost us to clean it up at some point.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
So the 2.7, how much of that's cash and how much of it is a performance bond? Roughly.
Performance bonds would have been the $28,100.
Most of it's cash. Most of it's cash. Or all of it. The 2.7.
Technically, it's not cash, it's restricted so that those things are already obligated in some manner.
So my question is, if we never had to clean it up, do we have cash available to transfer or not?
We would have that cash if we never had to clean it up, yes. That's what you're doing.
It's cash. So, and then the 4.2 in the rain day, is some portion of that tied to resolutions or is it all rainy day?
It is a resolution that y'all did to establish that rainy day fund, yes. And part of our financial policies to keep a certain amount on hand for capital and or operating.
Right, okay. But not, there's not a specific, like, part of it's tied to a specific resolution that we're going to have to pay this out to something at some period of time. I get it.
It's a resolution that y'all have simply to keep that amount on hand.
Okay.
So
And then the unassigned,
that also,
sorry,
I mean, we pay debt with that.
You could pay debt with that, as long as you made a resolution to do something else.
we changed that resolution. Right now, we're resoluted to save it, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's correct.
So the unassigned is additional, is it additional money?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm just making sure I understand.
Thank you, not already purposed.
Thank you.
The next is a summary of our proprietary funds. You know them better as enterprise funds. Those are represented as far as the annual financial statements on page 24. We did a summary here so that you can see the summary net effect, operating revenues versus operating expenses of each one of those funds, and then the net position at the end of the year. One of the major changes that we had within the current financial statements for this year was the implementation of GASB 68. I think we've talked some about that. We had one workshop on it, and then information that was given to y'all behind the scenes for your review. The GASB instituted Statement 68 to be implemented in 2015. This statement basically created a new pension reporting requirement for all governmental employers. The countywide financial statements now reflect our net pension asset. This represents the excess of the pension's fiduciary net position over the total pension obligation. The net pension sum is reflected on page 14 of the government-wide statements and page 23 of the proprietary statements. Detailed information is in note 12 of the audited financial statements. This information is based on actuarial reports that are done annually on our retirement plans that we participate in. The annual pension expense is no longer presented just on a cash basis of what we've actually dispersed out, but it's reported in a manner that recognizes the liability and then the gains and losses subsequent to that. Note 12 of the financial statements, page 47, begins the entire overview of that process and the treatment and the reporting of the county's pension plan within our financial statements this year. A summary of that information is on the slide, the changes in the net pension liability. It begins with the total pension liability, what the beginning balances were, what the balances were at December 31st, 2014, what the fiduciary net position is, and then the net pension liability, which is that column A minus the column B equals the column C. So the beginning balance that we started out with January 1st of 2014 was the $969,462. At this point, the balance at December 31st, 2014 is the $1,119,946. That shows that basically we're about 114% funded.
Service cost of $295, what is that?
That would have been all of the expenses that are in the plan.
Just as a side note, if I can add right here, the commissioners assigned a committee to study these plans and the insurance, and we are close to being able to bring the commission some information so that some decisions can be made about how to handle these things possible.
So the $295, that would include any management fees involved? Okay.
Next is just operating information as far as slides and the results. This information is taken from page 20 of the annual financial report. As you can see, it shows our general fund budget, our general fund actual revenue, and our general fund actual expenditures. The second slide is a breakdown of the revenue by source. As you can see, what we enumerated in the past is our property tax and TAV tax. Is the majority of our revenue coming in. Second is our sales tax, licenses and permits, intergovernmental our charges for services, fines and forfeitures, and then investment earnings and other revenue, for a total of $28,039,508. Our revenues, as far as comparison in the general fund from 2014 to 2015, basically show that our property tax, our TOD tax, is down slightly, about $330,000. This is primarily due to the fact that we were recouping a lot of old taxes at one particular point in time because of the tax sales that Linda has been doing. And she has cleaned up an awful lot of that, so we would not receive in as much as we have in the past. As far as sales tax, our sales tax is actually up slightly from the prior year, but each year comparable to the other.
Bottom line is really close,
Yes.
$100,000 within the 2 years close.
Yes. Expenditures, as far as the county functions, this is just a graph of those expenditures. As you can see, 53% of that are in our public safety, 16% of that is just in general government, and then divided out through health, recreation, development, public works, and intergovernmental. As far as expenditures between 2014 and 2015, we were at $27,273,681 and $26,781,302 in 2015. As you can see, most of those are pretty comparable to each other. The main difference, as you can see, the intergovernmental of $1,096,592. That was the payments that we made out of fund balance to the cities. Those were paid out in 2014, so we no longer have those in 2015. As far as schedule for special purpose local option sales tax, as you know, our projects are divided into various categories of public buildings, roads, drainage, recreation, vehicles and equipment, technology, water and sewer, and then the payments out of those funds that we receive to the actual cities. We actually have two slides. One is based on our 2007 spots, which we're still closing out. And we primarily spent funds within public buildings and roads and streets for the current year for $567,904. Within our 2012 splash, our actual disbursements were $8,629,248. Of that, $1,187,177 was intergovernmental, which would have been the city's portion of it. Then, as far as we did expend funds for the principal amount on the county jail, as far as the roads and streets, we spoke earlier about the fact that we have done Zitwire, Bunny Kessler, the Ash Roads, portion of Courthouse Road. As far as the expenditures that are within roads and streets. As far as recreation, y'all are aware that we have expended those funds for the recreation department as far as the land, and going ahead and initiating studies and the work to get that under construction. Within vehicles and equipment, we purchased fire engines and the ambulances. And then under technology, we actually purchased some servers for that $18,116.
So this is probably, it's a stupid question, I just want to be sure I got it right in my mind. The reason we're at 38% on the jail is because we financed that?
That's correct. We have certificates of participation. Yes, ma'am. One of the things we wanted to do this year was to go through and just emphasize some of the highlights as far as the things that have been accomplished within these budgets and within these the financing for the county. In public safety, as you know, we hired the ISO consultant. That report has been completed, and implementation of the items that were recommended have been in process. We have done the consolidation with Springfield Fire, and that agreement is in operation at this point. We went ahead and did the radio system upgrades. Those things have been completed. Within the roads, we of course have changes within the Effingham Parkway as far as the concept, and that report was approved. We have currently, right now, out about $4 million in road projects approved and are in process. In the areas of buildings, Tusculum Fire Station was completed, and we are in the process right now of doing the public works and fleet maintenance building. And so we hope to have that completed shortly. In recreation, we made great strides as far as the comprehensive recreation master planning. The design for phase 1 is nearing completion. The purchase of the property for recreation has been completed. As far as just general items within administration, again this year we were able to approve a budget that lowered the millage as far as the rollback rate, while we still held fire and sanitation fees to be the same. We implemented the recreation online software, which has been significant as far as manpower and as far as the financial piece of that. We have participation in that probably at about 90-95% as far as those people who are using the recreation services. We did implement the new fleet maintenance as far as a new provider that's been in place, and we've had some good results there. With them being attentive to the requests that we're making. This year we negotiated insurance premiums at 2.9% against the industry standard of about 7% as far as an increase. And we did so with no major changes to the major medical or transfer of networks or benefits or doctors. The grounds maintenance services are contracted out and are in process. We had gone through a pilot program as far as the fuel dollars and saving that with WEX. It is up and operating, and we have transferred all of that over, so we're reading some of those reports. As far as the funding agreement with the hospital, we finally have that in place and have moved and transferred those particular operations to the agreement itself. And then, of course, one of the last things was summer food support. I think this board all wanted to support summer foods, but felt like that it was out of our area necessarily to handle, and so that has been shifted by Stephanie to the Board of Education, and I think it ran very well this last year. As far as the SLOSS overview, as far as the financial assets that we had $11,262,640 at 6/30. The liabilities at that particular point in time with accounts payable and accrued liabilities was $413,000 for a net of $10,848,954. Those funds, of course, are all restricted, so all of those funds are restricted for our net fund balance. This current year, we have no audit payments. And we have both Bridget Deal and Kate Patrick here for any questions and comments from them to this board. And so we'll let them have the floor.
Well, unless they have something, unless they come up with something different from what I've heard, I just have to say I'm impressed already.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say. She did a great job going through the financial highlights in the financial statements. And we just want to thank the board for the opportunity to serve as the auditors for the county, and to thank Joanna and her staff and Toss and all the people within the county that get the information to us to do the audit, so that we could get a the audit completed, get it done timely so that it can get to the state of Georgia on time. So things have definitely improved over the 3 years, I think it is, that we've done the audit. So that's to commend this board and the people within the county. Things are looking
I didn't
good.
have a finding in any of the other areas, like in any area.
Right,
The other elected officials, that shows everybody's really been working, so.
Yeah. So that means that the findings that we had in the past have been addressed. And
And to your right, it looks like all staff, all elected, everybody's cooperative and everything's good.
Yep, everybody's been good to work with.
Everybody's always, I'm sorry, I sound like I have a frog in my throat, that's why I'm letting him talk. Everybody's always very cooperative, including your constitutional officers, and we really appreciate that. I also want to point out on page 52 of the financials, there is a disclosure related to the legal settlement that was right after the fiscal year end and the appraisal of that piece of property. That's on page 52.
That didn't occur in this fiscal year, did it?
It's in fiscal year that started July 1st.
It did not, but since it was material in nature, we needed to make sure there was not a liability that needed to be booked, which there was not, because the appraisal is actually more than the settlement.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
everybody's hard work, both staff and you guys as well.
Thank y'all.
I like not having to have extensions.
Only thing here is that this, as long as it's not on
All right, we had the presentation. Now the next item is the consideration to approve the audited financial statements for transmission to the state of Georgia.
I make a motion, Chairman, that we approve the audited financial statements for transmission to the state of Georgia as presented.
Second.
Did you have something you wanted to say, Joanne?
No,
You
sir,
just
not
moved
at
on. All right, you said it all. All right, I had a motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Lowe. No other discussion or questions? Call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? So transmit. Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
All right, next item, consideration to approve and execute a capacity agreement with the State of Georgia Department of Corrections.
Mr. Chairman, this is the agreement that we typically do every year. We actually renewed this, I guess, 7 months ago. And what we wanted was the opportunity to look at our population that we house in that facility and see if there were any adjustments that we needed to make prior to next June. Staff has looked into that. At this time, we believe we need to stay where we're at, 192 population. So with that, this is the same agreement that we do every year. This one will renew again on June 30th of 2016, and then we'll probably go back, yearly with these agreements. It does have a 60-day termination clause, and has been reviewed and approved by the county attorney. And with that, the board will recommend y'all's approval of this, so we can get to the state.
Out of the 192 inmates, how many of them do we actually work on the rest? How many of them just lay up there every day and they don't do anything?
That's a great question, Mr. Loper, and the answer seems to change every time we ask. I would say, though, that there are, every time I walk in there, quite a few sitting around.
So they cost us about, what, $25 a day?
They do, but when you...
Other than, more than, they gave us $20, and years ago they said it cost $36, $37 for a prison a day.
That's right, they do.
They not paying us for 20.
It's down to about $30 a day, is the last we just did, so it's 20 minus the,
So we still losing, we still losing $10 a day on
Yes,
it.
sir.
I mean, paying $10 a day for them.
What we are, but when you look at the reduction in the numbers, you lose that entire 20, but we don't lose the corresponding offsetting number in staff to be able to handle it. So in other words, if your staff stays the same, but your revenue decreases, you're losing money.
And
So you
I,
have to cut some other costs to make it beneficial, and we just could not see where we're able to cut those additional costs.
I know what you're getting at, because I've been concerned about whether it made sense to keep it open or what to do about it. But I'll say this as far as voting on this tonight, since it does have a 60-day termination clause, I have no problem with doing that. But also, I think that we may have some things that we can look at that will help us decide what we're doing moving forward. I know we don't have to take a look at all of it.
We did put a synopsis in your packet as a review to show you what we looked at as far as the number there, the reduction in the actual revenue. And as Todd said, it is a matter of the largest expense we have is personnel. Right now, if we were to reduce that by that 68, we don't have corresponding decrease in expenditures as far as personnel. They're saying we could only take out about 4 of the actual employees that we currently use, or decrease those employees by 4. As such, when you look at that, that means that there's only about $190,000 in personnel costs that would be reduced. We looked at purchases and contracts, that's as far as the actual meals, okay, and so forth, the supplies, the medical costs, and so forth. So we only see a reduction of about $255,000 versus the revenues that we get for those same inmates. And when you look at that, the difference there is that 211, 700,000. We simply, unless we can restructure the current personnel that we're using or how we're doing that, it's not necessarily cost effective at this time to reduce that number.
Reducing the number is not the thing. We've got to decide whether we're going to close it.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's either keep it open at this level, because like you say, the numbers just doesn't work to reduce the inmate population.
And that was part of what we started this last year with going ahead and doing pneumonia and so forth and seeing how cost effective that is. We've still got to work through some of those things as far as the inmates that we do use and what we're using them for, and restructuring that as to whether or not the expenditure is less to use outside contractors to do that stuff. And so we're looking at all those pieces, but at this point, it's not cost effective unless there is a closure and unless we can do it in such a way that the expenditures to replace that labor is not more expensive.
Basically, the bottom line is, we're trying to get to the point where I'm saying that I think we're at a place that we have some information we can look at that can help us decide at least which way we want to consider at this point, and that'll be forthcoming.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's a lot of other people use our inmates, which we don't get anything for them. We don't get any work out of them, but we still have to pay for them.
And that's some of the things we can look
Once we
at.
work, yeah, we got free labor more or less.
Part of that though falls into service delivery, which has to play a part of this, and also Rankin, I've got the additional inmates that we do get income from. So, you know, there's all these pieces and parts, and I think I remember this board, when we did this before, this has always been an annual agreement, but we made it 6 months, and I hope that we would have looked at this by now. I don't think we're to the point. I mean, personally, we have no options at this point. We've got to renew the agreement. It's whether or not you want to renew it for 192. So today, the 192 number is a necessity, because if we don't do 192, we're reducing our income and we're not decreasing our expenses by enough to reduce the income. So to me, today, it's a no-brainer to renew this thing until the end of June.
I agree. And we have, like I said, we have a 60-day termination clause that
Right.
we can do what we need to do as it comes along.
But we do need to keep this on our radar and continue to look at the numbers as to that. Reducing the population is not the answer. It's to decide whether or not we're going to close the facility.
Well, to be frank with you, you know, if you study jails and prisons both across the state of Georgia, some of them do things smart and make money, and some of them do things a little different and don't. And there's some things that we have to look at. And I'll just step right into the mud and go ahead and say, we're going to be able to discuss some things in executive session tonight that I think will make a difference towards it. But until we talk about it, I don't know.
I agree. And the other thing is, another thing that put some of this on the radar was the judicial reform that actually will allow for mean, for years, we have not had what I would call hardened criminals. But the judicial reform basically made some things possible that we could get prison inmates out there that we have not been used to having.
It's supposed to be, it's a work camp still, that we have some protections in that.
The classifications that they're using right now is such that, as it was explained to Toss and I, they are trying to use other resources for the inmates that we have been using primarily. But there's another part of this. When we were at the correctional institution in Forsyth, we aren't the only ones in this boat. And so there was a significant lobby to ask the state to increase the amount that we're currently getting paid, as we understand that that's supposed to be in process. So there's another piece of this picture.
It is very little, but it is.
It's on ACC's agenda, it's just not front burner this year. It's probably not going to happen this year, but they are looking at it. And the other side of this is exactly what Commissioner Lover said. If we can get them out and get them working within these dollars, it makes a big difference on the value that we're getting. So there's two ways of looking at it. The other way is that we can structure the way we're doing things to utilize the labor force to where the majority of them are going out, then it's a better value per inmate, if you will, and or we're getting things accomplished that we're not today.
The way I look at it is we've had so much on our plate that we haven't had an opportunity to really work at this the way that we probably need to, and now we can put this on the forefront. And I think that we have a chance to look at it and maybe make it a workable solution. And if not, then we'll do what we need to do.
And the state is, we're supposed to get a raise on that $20. I don't know how much we get, but we're supposed to.
They're asking 25, what ACCG said, but you heard the chairman and Chatham say you need to go for 30. That's something that needs to be talked about.
That would be good if we get 30.
It would be very good. Even 25.
25 would help.
Yes, sir.
But for tonight's business, we're here to look at a 6-month basically extension to do exactly what we have always done is 1 year. So
5 months basically.
if we had done this for 1 year like it had always been done, this wouldn't even be.
That's right. We just want to give ourselves this opportunity to have this discussion tonight, prior to 1 year, that's all.
I understand.
So can I have a motion from somebody to?
I'll make a motion that we go with staff recommendation, alternative number 1, and approve the agreement.
I have a motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. But I do ask that staff keep this in our forefront so that whenever we get this up for renewal, we might have some direction to go. All right. Next item, consideration to approve a professional services agreement with the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Chairman, this is another annual agreement that we have done at least for the past several years with the Chamber of Commerce. Nothing really has changed from the previous agreement. The amount's the same. The agreement is the same. It is for a period of 1 year beginning January the 16th. And has been reviewed and approved by the county attorney as well. And Mr. Locke pointed out earlier today that should you all choose to approve this, it's I guess, under the services to be provided by the county is a booth at the annual Holiday Classic. That event has been discontinued, so that will need to be removed from the services to be provided should the board choose to approve this agreement. So with that, staff would recommend that you all approve this agreement with that one change.
With the omission of item number M.
Yes, sir.
In other words, M becomes N, or We just moved, we removed the line item, provide the county with a booth at the holiday annual classic, and everything moves up.
That's right. N will become M, O will become M, that's right.
So we're not removing item number M, we're removing the service, provide the county with a booth at the holiday classic.
Yes.
Would that be a fair statement? Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't see where they do too much. I mean, where we get any service from the chamber. I don't know where they provide service stuff. B and C, the chamber, that's what they're here for. E and F, with the IDA, they should take care of that. G and H, we give them the hotel motel tax that they really needed. And the rest of it, I mean, I don't know what they actually do for us for that $4,500. And all this other provided stuff, I mean, the annual chamber meeting, they provided a table for 8 people. There were 2 people, there were 2 commissions there last year. Jamie and myself, that was all there, so that was a waste. They passed 2 passes there for them day at the Capitol. So we pay them to pay that, so. And then done away with the holiday classic. I don't see the GIS maps. I mean, we got the best GIS system in the state. They can make all the maps that we need to move. And I don't see nothing, the service they provide to the part of the Effingham County Commission. I mean, what is the purpose of the chamber as far as Effingham County? Most of the things I talked about, that is the chamber's job to start with. So anyway.
I think it's just a point of support the chamber. They're doing the best for our county and that's what we want for this county.
What are they doing for it? If we're not helping them with, what are they actually doing that we're not helping them with already? What happened to 4,500?
We need funds to run just like everything else does.
It's a private entity.
But what is it? It does get down to, we have a contract for services with them, and so I don't know anything, but if the contract for services is handy, but that's what they're supposed to be giving us for that money because that's the legal requirement.
Well, I just went over, and I don't see where all that comes in. I may be reading it the wrong way, but anyway, that's my take on it. Y'all tell me what they're doing for the $4,500. I mean, they got a whole list of what they provide, and I just told you why that most of that is the chambers. They're supposed to do that anyway. That's their job. They're private entities. That is their job to provide all these services. Most of them, they want the hotel motel tax. That takes care of all the stuff that they.
$4,500, I think, is so we can be participants in these activities. Is that right, correct?
Mr. Long?
Yeah.
Ryan, when you go to the Effingham Day.
Did you go to the chamber this past year? Did you go to the family?
No.
They provide a table for 8 people. 2
I
people.
couldn't make it.
I
Would
just
y'all
don't think.
allow me to ask a question or two?
Well, okay, when I get through talking, Mr. Chairman, you can ask anything you want to. Now you can speak. We'll be discussing it. Don't cut me off. Now you can speak, I'm through.
All right, Commissioner Loper made some points, and that's why I want to ask some questions to try and answer his point. If it is in board's intention to provide a contract of services, as has been done the last 2 years, correct?
Right.
And the services agreement was a reaction to the fact that we were paying dues, which I think Commissioner Jones found was not legal. We can provide professional services and enter into a contract. Commissioner Loper's asked some questions. With the holiday classic being omitted, is there any provision here to provide, say, could the county get more than 2 passes to Effingham Day at the Capitol?
Certainly.
That's what I'm trying to add.
Well, what's the difference? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm trying to address your question.
Obtaining value, more value for it.
And that's what I'm asking. I mean, this is not a one-shot, okay, And I've got to be honest, I mean, and I've told you personally, I have my own concerns with the value that the county gets and what I think the chamber does, but we're not going to get into that. I mean, what could be amended to this that may make this a more palatable agreement? And are you in a position to do that?
I believe I am, and I'm certainly willing to be as flexible as reasonable to be. If it's more passes to Effingham Day, or, you know, any of the other events that you do take part in, or would like to take part in. The Community Leadership Retreat, as you know, we're making some changes in how that's done and bringing it into the county now instead of going outside the county for that.
I want to
So
thank you for that.
we're trying to be responsive.
Commissioner Loper, you brought this up. Is there a number, and I understand your concerns if you want to just vote against it, that's certainly your right. But, and I don't know that, I've heard two other statements here, so I'm trying to feel this thing out. Commissioner Loper, is there a number there that, I mean, what does a pass to the Effingham Day at the Capitol cost this county?
125, I believe.
125. I mean, if we got 10 passes rather than 2, would that make it more palatable?
No, it's all the things I talked about. I mean, you got a whole list of stuff here that they provide.
Okay.
They provide for the county. And I don't see where they provide nothing. I mean, provide a chamber representative to add to the contact for incoming interest to assist them in their transition to the community. Well, that would be a big part with IDA. I don't think the commissioners as a whole does that.
Okay.
I would certainly say 10 passes, 10 times 125, being of a dollar amount versus 2, that would certainly be a better benefit for us. And I can find, if you're able to do that, that would be definitely plus.
I'm a negotiator. I'm trying to figure out how to.
What you got to remember, it's not, we're not trying to find value for Effingham County commissioners, it's Effingham County at large.
That's right.
And it's representing in what they do for the county, not the county commissioners. And that's the way I look
But
at it.
if we ever pay your tickets
Well,
from
I understand.
I know.
other funds, it's
Yeah.
not the
And
tax.
I know that. I said commission, but it's just Effingham.
Yeah.
I don't consider it a benefit to me personally to attend that.
That's why, no.
What I'm saying is,
Yeah, that's what I clarified.
We're paying tax money, the commissioners paying tax money for this, for all these services, which I don't think it adds up to $4,500.
All right.
You just look at them and go over each one of them individually, and I'm just.
but if we be saving from a cost from another category where we're gonna spend, then that would make it helpful.
Mr. Lott,
Yes,
are
sir.
you in a position to change that from 2 passes to 10 passes?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any other changes that may be recommended by this board?
Because let me ask this question, maybe put it this way to clarify what Commissioner Keeper's saying. When we do go on that type of business meeting, and we have to pay for those, is that coming out of general fund, or is that being paid for?
Travel.
General fund.
General fund, so that's taxpayer dollars from their property taxes. So it is a benefit to do that. Okay. That's what.
All right. Let's see if I can get a motion out of this, and let's run with this. Can I get a motion from this board to pass this with the changes of providing the county with 10 rather than 2 to Effingham Day at the Capitol, and the omission of providing the county with a booth at the annual holiday plaza? Other than that, the agreement would stay the same.
I'll make that motion to exactly what Chairman said.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Floyd. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Kiefer. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed?
Aye.
Let the record show that that motion passes with one objection by Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, next item, consideration to approve to update job descriptions for Department 105 Water and Sewer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's the policy of the Board of Commissioners to approve any updated or changed job descriptions for any position within the board. Upon review of the current positions that are in the Water Sewer Department, there are currently only 2 listed job descriptions for 4 current positions. And to be honest, when this was created, when the water sewer system came in, we were learning as we went along. The descriptions were created to do basic operations, make sure the facility ran. Upon the review of the current positions, the 4 job descriptions that you have were created to better handle the requirements of the facility, to operate them more efficiently, and to address more concerns as they have come up as we have grown in our utilities. The 4 positions are stacked, shall you say, in responsibilities, from the water utility lead operator to a project specialist, and then an actual operator, and one position of an operator trainee. In any kind of facility like this, when you're starting to grow and the demands on the facility grow, the ability to bring someone in to train, to do progression planning for replacement of people as attrition happens, is a common practice. These job descriptions actually will have no funding change for the departments. There's simply a redistribution of duties and responsibilities that makes it more clear.
So if we okay this, we in good shape, right?
For about a year. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Till we get to the next item, okay.
Right. And this will carry, and as we grow, we make developments and changes.
We're just covering proper positions for people we already have.
Correct.
Any other question?
Yeah, this item does not change anything other than the descriptions. The next one is what you get to.
Yeah.
That's all this does.
I
is
just
change.
mentioned that one.
Yes, sir, that's right. You're absolutely correct.
Motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next is consideration to approve a resolution for a budget amendment for Department 105 Water and Sewer.
Now the fun part. As we grow, some needs change as far as staffing goes. And one thing that has always been a challenge for the water and sewer is the need for operation to be open on Saturday and Sunday for 4 hours. As we have reviewed the requirements of it with the new job descriptions, which will accommodate the different changes that are happening as we grow, staff is recommending the addition of a pool hours, part-time hours, to cover the 8 hours on the weekends, and then an additional 4 hours being budgeted to cover current staff's sick days, personal leaves, things of that nature, or any training that they need to be pulled from. In addition to the pool hours, which would be a total of 624 hours per year, we are requesting a position to be created of the trainee, the operator, a full-time position. That position would be more of an entry level, as we were describing in the job description, so that that person could learn the process, we could get them certified, and then build that commitment to the county through that education. This also will allow us to continue to have full-time coverage. It will reduce the overtime expenditure that is pretty much built in now with a staff of 4 to cover the weekends. 3, sorry, I apologize, staff of 3.
Now with the shift or schedule being where he's not paying overtime on the weekend, will this See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. That is what this is designed to do.
Well, does a budget amendment take into consideration a reduction in overtime?
Not exactly. Let me give y'all the short version of what's going on here. We have 3 people that run a facility 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And they're not there that long, but I mean, they have to operate a minimum 4 hours a day, which generates a lot of overtime. One of those 3 people are looking to retire here in the next couple of weeks. When they retire, they offer to come back part-time. That solves a lot of issues for us, in my opinion. It solves the Saturday and Sundays, it gets rid of the overtime, and it allows us to hire back. What I'm asking for is 2 people in his one position. Yes, it is an ad, dollar-wise, but it'll end up with 4 people, 1 part-time instead of 3 full-time positions. And the thing that makes it more difficult is we can't necessarily just hire somebody with no credentials whatsoever because they cannot occupy that plant on Saturday and Sunday because they have to carry a minimum class 2 wastewater operator's license. So by allowing him to come in part-time, we can hire entry-level people and work them up through the progressions to become licensed and to grow in there.
He would train, he would more or less train some, the new one we hired.
Yes, sir. They would do some of that. Now, let me tell you, in 2013, we had a total of 877 customers. Today, we have 1,583. So in the last 4 years,
1583, yeah.
from 877, we have nearly doubled our customer base in 4 years, yet we've added no staff. Every one of those customers that we bring is a new connection. As they come in, it's a new meter that they have to go out and install and set. As people move in and out, renters and so forth, there's disconnects, reconnects. And as development starts back up, there's utility locates with every construction project that go on.
It all sounds good, I have no problem with it. I only asked that question because what I was wondering was, if you're showing this ad, but it may even really, in the long run, not cost us this much because we'll be getting a credit that the credit's not being shown to us.
So on paper, what HR did was exactly what they should have done. It's a $40,000 ad in the budget. In reality, it's probably closer to 25 because we're paying out about $15,000 to $16,000 a year in overtime. That's not accounted for in that number.
That was the point I was trying to get brought out.
So the true ad is about $25,000.
So we won't be paying, with overtime, we won't be actually paying $41,000.
That's correct.
But they cut out most of overtime.
That is correct. Now, it may not cut out all of it because this person would solve the Saturday and Sunday, but if 2 o'clock in the morning a line breaks and they have to come out there, that's something we can't foresee, that overtime they have. It will cut out all the scheduled overtime, if you will, on Saturdays and Sundays. So for approximately $25,000, we go from 3 full-time staff to 4 full-time and part-time, is what I'm trying to accomplish. And I've told a couple of y'all, you've seen what we've done over positions and so on and so forth. We've eliminated quite a few here recently. I would not be asking y'all this if I didn't truly believe that they needed the help over there. And that's the only way I can say it.
And this budget amendment takes us through the current fiscal year.
Yes, sir.
To June 30th. Okay. Any other questions? Motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner DeLoach. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve insurance premium calculations for health care.
Back in, so it was October, there was some question as to how the premiums for the insurance had been calculated previously. It was discovered through the calculation that there was inequities that were created through the process, and upon review of it, and the staff report shows a breakdown of how the calculation used to be done and how the updated version was applied. The big difference is where you apply the stipend that the commissioners have approved for all employees. Being that it's percentages and whole numbers, where that applies makes a huge difference on the amount that the employees will pay. If you look at the staff report and kind of a brief walkthrough of it, under the example, you take the employee-only premium, which the county pays 100% for all employees, and then the direction was that we, as the county, would pay 55% of the remaining dependent premium. The historical calculation took the total premium, took out the employee-only portion, which left you the remainder of the dependent portion. The dependent portion was then multiplied by 55%, giving you the county's portion of the dependent. You take that 370.90 and add it to the employee only, and you come up with total county portion of the premium. At that point, you then apply the stipend, which is given to the employee to use on any kind of benefit he wishes, or she wishes, and deduct that from the remaining 45% of the dependent premium, which gives you the $167.38.
And you might want to say, because I don't see it here, the stipend is a flat amount,
Correct.
and of how much?
The stipend is actually $136 per month, or $68 per paycheck.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
And they can apply that to whatever benefit.
An employee only can apply it to whatever benefit they want as a determination for employees, because the premiums were so much more expensive than any other possible option for them. The decision was made to apply that premium stipend to the medical insurance premium, to go ahead and apply it that way. Now, the updated method that was used, same numbers, same process, except the stipend is then moved back and applied to the dependent portion prior to the 55% being calculated for the employer's portion, which then leaves you with a difference of the $242.18 per month, as opposed to the $167.38. It's the simple placement of that stipend that made the difference.
So what was approved?
What was approved for the premiums was that until this could be reviewed and find out how the other calculation is done, that the Board of Commissioners would absorb that whole 2.9% increase of the premiums. And that's what was done.
Basically, what's happened, if I understand back in the day, the stipend was approved, but there was not instruction given on where to apply, so then HR made a decision on where to apply. So then when Joanna took a look at this year, when she applied it in the way that she would have thought was typical or normal or standard, the numbers were way off. So then when Kevin went back and looked at the old information on how they were doing it, he was like, oh, well, here's how it is, we were applying it this other way. Which, and I'll say, when I studied it, when I looked at it for myself, I would definitely think you would apply the stipend not in the way we've been doing it. But the problem for us at this point is we've been doing it this way all this time. So now do we change that on the employees or do we not? That's what we're stuck with.
And sort of to answer your question, we don't know. What we believe and understand that the staff in place at the time that this was done is largely, there's no one to ask us here, but we believe the administrator at the time made the decision to apply in this manner. And that's been several iterations ago, probably 3 or so administrators ago, and that has just carried forward. That's the best we can tell from digging through historical records and so forth. We believe that the administrator made the decision and we were to apply it, and that has just carried forward. We can't follow the board after they gave that direction.
So there's not, but there is a resolution from the board saying this stipend is going to be paid. Just not where or how to apply.
Very good question. I cannot find documentation where the board actually heard the presentation, proposal of the stipend, voted and approved it. When I started working originally, it was in place already. The decision to apply it where it was applied historically is because we were allowing the employee to choose, if it was employee only, where the stipend went. So in that same fashion, we would allow the employee family to choose, which means we would have already had to have done the calculation on the 55% premium.
And I'll say this, until finance got involved with looking at this, all these years when we've been given our insurance numbers and we're studying it, the stipend was not shown to us.
So the stipend's been there, you don't know where it came from, but it was there.
What
And all you want to do is change it.
Where?
She applied it the other way.
I simply was reviewing what had been done historically, and when we reviewed it and looked at the calculations and were trying to get back to the calculation, Toss and I sat and calculated several different ways. Not until Kevin came back were we able to find the information about how it had been done in the past. As Kevin said, to my knowledge, when I got here, I don't know when that stipend necessarily was approved or how it was done. I know that Ed did make some decisions when he was here regarding the insurance, whether it was applied or not applied. I don't know. I do not recall it necessarily coming before the board for direction.
And a long story short, because I can't remember exactly, because the way it's presented here is a little bit difficult to follow. But that day when I studied it on the chart, when I was asking questions about it, it basically it's like you're applying something to a higher amount or a lower amount. And that what gets down to either making a bigger benefit to the employee or not, or a bigger cost to the county or not.
Correct.
And it doesn't make, typically you would apply the benefit after everything's done.
And I think the schedule that we gave you right now gives the board the information as far as the total percentage that the board is paying for each one of the employees in the various categories. I think it's the staff's recommendation right now to follow suit at this time with going ahead and applying the 2.9% increase as it has been done in the past to the employee's portion of it, and then subsequent to that, go through and try to review all the benefits and exactly what we're paying for and come up with a resolution as far as benefits overall.
Because we do have that amount budgeted.
We can absorb the 2.9, but staff is recommending that we follow suit with what has been done in the past, which is any increase is also passed along to the employee.
What is our timeline on this? When is the original contract?
The original contract started in October, so we've already seen this. We just have not applied it to the individual employees.
Because it was going to be a big hit to employees out of the blue.
Yeah.
But
Now, help me, bottom line is, they would have been paying under this scenario, they should have been paying 242, but they've been paying 167.
No, they should have been paying 167 based on the way it's been calculated
Before.
But now, and that's one of the options on here. You can go to the new calculation. Go ahead.
the old calculation, if you look under the 2015-16 schedule, okay, if we simply apply that 2.9% increase, the difference per employee is $4.35 for the employee spouse, $2.41 for the employee child, and $6.37 for the employee family. Historically, that is what we have applied in the past, is whatever that percentage of increase is. And so if you leave the historic calculation as it is and apply the 2.9%, those would be the changes currently in what the employee is paying, which is different than the calculation of the updated method, which would be the 41.75, the 39.81, and the 43.77.
A pay period.
Per pay period.
So some of these people will be paying $100 more a month.
Correct, and that's why the staff recommendation is for right now is to continue with the historic based off of the simple increase of the 435, the 241, and the 637. As you can see, the recap of the employer pay shows out to the side what the current percentage is that the board is paying on each one of those categories.
And how long does that carry us?
So that would carry us through.
December of 2016.
Right.
For another year.
During that budget year.
To say it probably a shorter way, if we believe that an additional $100 a month is more than we want to increase right now, our suggestion will be to leave it alone, pass along the 2.9 to the employee for the simple reason that what we need to do to right this ship is to make changes in the coverages that we offer. Maybe there's a choice of plans or something to get this back into line, and we cannot do that until December of 16. Now, we need to shop it before then, but we can't change our plan. So there's only two ways of fixing this. One is to change the coverages we offer, which we can't do before December 16, or the other is to just pass the cost along to the employee. And I think we've all in some level agreed that $100 a month is probably a little more than we want to pass along. So if that's the case, that's why we're saying let's just leave it like it is, pass along the 2.9, but between now and December, we need y'all's input as to what changes we can make. We just can't make them today because we are signing a contract.
So basically, some people have elected not to take any additional insurances and have just been taking the stipend and reducing their insurance, their dependent insurance costs.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Basically.
Yes.
Correct.
So for the people that have been electing to take out cancer insurance, dental, the other, and if they have been using their stipend to buy these additional insurances, then it's not a big difference. Theirs would still be a 2.9% increase. If they were. If they were spending their stipend
Yes.
to buy additional coverages, then they're going to see a 2.9% increase. For the people that's using their stipend to roll their dependent coverage back, they're going to get hit.
They will. In the historical method, it would be the $4. The updated method, then yes, they would get the $41 increase.
And staff has put together, we asked Kevin to put together several different scenarios that we've looked at, whether or not we have a, gold plan, a silver plan, or a bronze plan, such as some of the things that the Board of Education does. It's just going to take some time to get those pieces implemented and those options there.
Again,
I think that's what the committee's been working on is through all this stuff, but for me, I totally agree. You can't just stop this thing the way it's been done and plop everything on everybody. That's not right.
but what is so frustrating and is now appreciated is that as a commissioner that's been sitting here on my 5th year, when I get reports and we go through these insurance premiums and plans and we have charts every year and we don't see that there's a stipend being credited anyway, and of course I'm not speaking to you guys, but these guys have clarified that, but those are problems, that we could have fixed this before now, but we had no way to know.
It's always been my understanding that the 55% was there for dependent coverage. That was what the board had approved when that was done. The stipend was there. This is the first that I knew, well, not the first, because back in October when we started looking at this is when this, just didn't know that it was this big of a deal. One thing that I think I'm correct in what I'm saying, it's the people, if an employee is getting $136 stipend and they're using it to buy the additional insurances, then they would just see the increase on the hospitalization, but for those who are using that stipend to roll back their premium, they would get hit.
And I can say that the stipend does go against major medical.
Right.
That is the practical application for human resources to say, okay, it's going to use against this one. Because, and then we'll get the hit. It'll be everybody that's got independent coverage is going to get a hit on it.
So the bottom
But I
line,
don't think that was the intent of the stipend.
No.
The stipend intent was to offer the additional coverages to round out the package that was offered to employees. It has just not been done that way.
It was the allocation of the stipend was directed by, and I know this was Ed, and it came through and that was said, apply it to this, that's the way we're doing it.
well, I had a question, I don't know, I had a question that if we're already paying an employee only 100% premium, are they, then if they elect nothing, are they getting a stipend?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're then getting a payment.
It depends. They're not getting it in a paycheck, but they can get it in a flex spending card and in fact get the money.
Okay. Bottom line is recommendation number 2 continues us doing what we've done in the past, which is giving the historical increase of the 2.9%. And some people believe that did approximately $4 to $6.
Yes, ma'am. And one thing real quick, on the sheet that gives the different examples, at the top, this is what the board pays for every single employee, all the coverages. And I don't think that's ever been presented clearly.
Yeah, thank you. And in doing so, if we do that, in doing doing so, that money is budgeted and it's not going to require a large budget amendment.
Correct, and I think staff, has made the commitment to make sure that when we go to the insurance, that summary figures are not given, but y'all are given the detailed figures, so that you see each piece of this and how it all rolls.
So that's what we would want. We appreciate it.
Well, as for me, I would hope this board would elect item number 2. It's not right to go and hit everybody that hard. It's staff or administration, whatever, that has gotten us to this point. And I appreciate those of you who have found it. But I do think this committee continuously look at this and present a plan for the end of 2016 so that we can work towards that and notify staff, employees early enough that they can start looking at that. I think that February 1st is fair. We sure don't need to start this January 1st and all of a sudden, boom, right, come back from Christmas and have a present.
Well, what we wanted to do was get this before the board prior to our open enrollment and mandatory educational sessions that we'll be having this week and next week. So that will afford staff an opportunity to have conversations with the employees and prepare them for the change in February.
Can we have enrollment again when?
This week, Thursday, Friday, and Monday and Tuesday next week.
Yeah. So, if we have beat that up enough, and nobody else has anything, I would ask that this board do that.
I'll make a recommendation, Chairman, that the board approve recommendation number 2.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. And again, thanks staff for the good work. I know it's kind of a tedious process.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, consideration to approve to accept a bid and issue a contract to Glisson Land Surveying for survey of the Highway 21 recreation project.
Skip number 9, Chairman.
Number 9.
I skipped number 9. All right, thank you. Consideration to approve a property use agreement with the City of Guyton for the use of its gym facility.
Mr. Chairman, before I even get into the staff report on this one, we received some correspondence after all this was put together and put out in the book from the city clerk over at the City of Guyton. The City of Guyton did take this issue up on 12/8. So they looked at this agreement, but they did not sign it. They had a few concerns with it. The one that's presented to you, so there's no need for me to ask you to sign it because they're not going to sign the other side of it without some amendments. Basically, where we're at this point is we've spoken with the recreation department. They believe that they can conduct the games and practices they need without the use of this facility. So at the end of this month, they're planning on just no longer using it, and we'll make other arrangements. So rather than approving an agreement for something we don't intend to use, we probably need to get back with you all with, unless you can give us direction tonight, to just pay the bill for December as per the previous agreement that is now expired, and then there will be no further commitments. But I did want to discuss with y'all how you wanted to handle this. Basically, excuse me, they're suggesting that we split this 50-50 with them instead of paying the entire bill during the time that we use it. But they've attached some bills here that for some reason have gone up recently and believe that cap would be over $1,800. So again, we can either do that or we can just pay them for the use of the facility in December and move forward. I don't have that dollar figure because December hasn't closed out. I don't know what it will be. So we can bring that back to y'all when we know what it is, or just looking for direction on how y'all want to handle this.
Our agreement actually expired in June, the president. March. And this agreement would have been for what months? December, January?
November the 30th, 2015 to March the 1st of 16. So it expired March of 15 because we only utilized it during those months. That's the only time we're playing basketball in that facility, is why it's not a 12-month.
And if I remember our previous conversation, there was some truing up that needed to be done from the previous
That's
contract.
correct, that's been done, we've issued up to the $1,800, they have been paid $1,800 total for the previous usage.
So the only thing that would be in question would be the month of December.
That's correct.
All right. I would, and I'd ask our attorney to correct me if I'm wrong in this, I would ask this board, because this agreement is not good on its face anyhow, to ask this board to authorize staff to settle with the city of Guyton for the month of December, at which time we will cease use of the facility. Could that be? And I would actually ask that we be able to put a monetary cap on it. How many months was it for before, at 1,800? 3 months?
5. No, 4.
4?
Yeah, because then it over, yeah. Yeah. So in March. And see, that's, I think.
So that was $450 a month.
Yeah. Now,
Let's see if we can, I would ask this board to give staff that authorization up to $600.
well, now, they provided us a list of bills
I don't care about that.
for the last year, I guess. So back in December of 14, apparently the bill was a little over $1,000.
I know that, but
He said all he wants to do is have staff give approval for that, and then we have to work that part out, it'll come back before us.
I would like for this board to give authorization to up to $600 for the month of December. And we will cease to use it at the end of this month. Historic, I mean, let's face it, there's a big discrepancy as to what the bill is and what they're claiming. Everybody's claiming the other one's leaving the heat on and whatever. Our rec department thinks, because they're using it too. So, and I would ask you, Toss, do you think that's not fair?
I can imagine the heat's been used.
But are we taking that as a final vote, or are we taking that as they can work that much out for December, and then if there's still issues, and that needs to be brought before us to consider? Or are you saying?
I'm
You
asking
say the
for
maximum
this-
$600.
I'm asking this board to give a resolution instead of authorizing me to sign this agreement here, which is not going to happen.
Well, I think if I remember what the email said, they were requesting that we split that cost. And I think what staff was suggesting was that we split that cost for the month of December and then no longer use it.
Which would be what month?
We don't have that figure yet, so based off of the figures that we have in the past that they have given to us, the largest was $1,300. I can't imagine it being more than that, so
Is that our share though?
that's the total bill.
Total.
So
If we're splitting it, he's right on target.
yeah,
If we're splitting it, historically, the agreement that we had last year, we paid the entire bill.
right.
So,
Up to a maximum
Of
for the
1,800.
term of the whole agreement of 1,800,
That's
Yes,
correct.
sir.
which would be $450 a month. Now, December historically is a colder month.
It's over, I'm sorry, it's over 3 months, it's to March 1st, so it'll be over 3, it'll be 600 a month.
600 a month.
Yeah,
If
I
we,
told you wrong, I told you 4.
if we could have an allowance up to say $725, then we should be able to cover half of whatever December would be. I'm just asking for a little bit more, so that we can conclude it. If it's less, then we'll pay the lesser amount.
If it's $675 and it
That'd be amazing.
washes it,
Exactly, so we don't have to come back before you.
You're saying 725.
$725, yes, sir. I would think it should be sufficient.
It's up to this board, but I I would like staff to have the authorization to get us out of the contract. We don't have a contract, we're just using it right now. Are we good? It's up to this board to set the amount. I still think 600 is a fair amount, so.
They say it was 13, how about we just go to 7? That'd be, you know.
700. If that's your motion, make it.
Okay, Rick.
I don't know enough about.
All right, with 700.
If that's your motion, make it. We'll see if we get a second.
Make a motion to pay them the December up to $700, and we will not use the gym anymore.
I have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Loper, seconded by Commissioner Delodes. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank y'all. Staff has their marching orders. All right, now I can get down to consideration to approve to accept the bid and issue a contract with Wilson Land Surveying for survey of the Highway 21 recreation property. I am just so excited about getting started on something. I just was about to skip right down to it, you see.
Mr. Chairman, this is, we own approximately 120 acres of purchasing 4 parcels. This bid is to survey all 4 of those parcels and recombining those into 3. There will be the 1.25 acre parcel that you all voted to surplus. Depending on this plat, it is exact meets and bounds. The remainder of what we're setting aside for commercial out parcels and the balance of property that will be used for recreation will be the 3 parcels that we end up with. This particular, these services were bid in all of our normal places. We received 7 responses. The Wilson Land Surveying was the lowest with a bid price of $5,440 to do so. And those are what they will actually end up with. The contract as presented to you under terms of service, under contract section 1.2 has that the contract must be completed by December 31st, 2015, which obviously is the end of this month. Upon sending this contract to Mr. Wilson for his signature, he felt that may be a little difficult to do, meaning that this contract wasn't approved until the 15th, and part of that is Christmas holiday and so forth. He's asked us to change that from the date of December 31st, 2015 to completion within 30 days of the contract issuance date.
That's something when I talked to him to confirm that it included those out parcel surveys as well. He was so adamant about wanting to get it done this month, so. Now, when we bid that out, was it bid to be completed by the end of December?
No, sir.
So that doesn't become an issue?
No, sir. The bid document did not have a completion date of December the 31st. They too become a part of this contract. That was something that we added, to just get the work done. Again, it's not asked for an indefinite time period, it's asked for 30 days, which would take that date from December 31st to say January 15th.
Like, the house, is it going to be in the way of survey?
I don't know the answer to that.
It's
Until he
sitting-
gets out there and sets that corner, I don't know exactly where it's sitting, if possible.
I think the corner of this property we're surplusing is sitting under that house.
It could be, Mr. Chairman. I just don't know the answer to the answer. That is a possibility.
I called today and left a message, got no answer.
I thought we were sending an attorney letter. I thought we were free to do that.
It was supposed to get moved last Friday, last
That's right, it was supposed to be
Saturday.
gone this past Saturday.
The site where he's putting it is still being prepped. They were putting dirt on it. It's where I think it is.
Did we not agree to send an attorney letter?
Yes.
I thought we did.
All right, I would ask this board then to approve this contract. He was the low bidder, and it does include the surveys of those out parcels. We verified that, so
Does the motion need to address the date change?
agreed to.
If the board's so willing to do so, again, he doesn't believe he can complete it within that time frame.
and ask that this be completed by January 15th.
Either way, because you don't, the contract you have is about to be changed, whether it's 30 days or it's the same difference, really, if you want to do January 15th or 30 days.
Is that what he asked for?
Yes, ma'am.
Contract issue.
He asked for 30 days, but again, that's the same thing, it's basically January 15th.
Anybody tell me what date January 15th falls on?
It is only Friday.
Good day. 15th, 16th. Let's make it to January 18th, that gives them.
How about if we don't move the house?
That's all I'm gonna. House is gonna do. Tornado's coming.
I do think we need to send a letter that we agreed to send. 2 weeks later, we need to send it.
Well, things have changed since we talked about that, so that's why it didn't go out. It wasn't out of.
Well, I haven't been informed of anything
On
changing.
the item that we're considering, I would ask this board to approve this contract with a completion date of January 18th. That gives them a full 30 days. I have one.
I make a motion that we approve the contract as presented with the change of the completion date to be January 18th.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Kiefer, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. All right. You got any break for planning board? All right. I think that's a good place for us to stop for a few minutes. We're going to take a break. I've got the time now, being 6:48. Be back in here at 7. Is it still on? Definitely on. We good? Yeah. All right. Clock's a little slow. Time is 7 o'clock. Time for planning board presenters. Thank each of you all for coming. First item, planning board recommends approving an application by Fletcher Wallhauer to rezone 1 acre located at 4440 Blue Jay Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 326, parcel number 36 in the 1st district.
Staff recommends approval along with the planning board.
Does this go all the way out to Highway 17?
Yes, sir. The property that this is coming out of does, but the plat that he supplied, which y'all should have in your packet, is closer to this area.
Paul, do you know the state puts a roundabout there at Blue Jay and 17 will that affect this property?
It would probably affect, the parent parcel, but I don't think it'll affect this one, because this is not in the corner
Oh, it's not?
where this property is being, the subdivided portion of this is not.
Oh, I thought it was the yellow part.
No, it's right in there, kind of where all she's at.
Where this
Okay.
area,
Yeah.
that's where they're proposing the 1.32 acres that to be rezoned comes out.
Okay.
Out of the 93.
Correct.
So yes, it would affect their overall property, but not this piece that's being rezoned
I
tonight.
just wanted to be sure nothing that we were doing would
No,
you, sir, Mr. Chairman. My name is Fletcher Wallauer, and I'm here with my wife Lynette. And what we're trying to do is create a deed to reflect the house and 1 acre of land. And in order for me to do that, I need these plat signed.
Is the rest of the property in Cuba?
All of the property is in Coover at this time.
And you need to take the house and that 1 acre out?
We want to take the house and that 1 acre of land out for future family.
Gotcha. Understand. All right. Anyone else here wish to speak for? Anyone here wish to speak against this rezoning? All right. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. This is in First District.
Make a motion, we approve based on planning board staff recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Loper to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you. Now what do I do?
Well, later on, we're going to have a second reading, and if that second reading of that passes, then I guess, RC, is it ready to sign?
Yeah, from what he's already given us, the plat is good.
Then we'll get it signed.
So when will that be? I've been working on this since Labor Day.
Well, it's a labor of love,
Well, a huge benefit of that is that we recently changed our policy so that we do our second reading the same night if there's no opposition, or you would have had to wait till the next meeting for our second reading next month.
But it was unanimous tonight, so we'll have the second reading here in a little while, and then you're good to go. I mean,
So I can come to his office in the morning?
yes, you got it.
Thank you.
Well, nothing in government's real clear, so it's a fair statement. All right, good to see y'all.
Good to see you too.
All right, next item, the planning board recommends approving an application by Edwards M. Miles for a variance use to allow for access to adjoining property located at 925 Low Ground Road, map number 393, parcel number 39 in the 2nd District.
Per our ordinance, staff recommends denial for section 7.1.8, which is criteria for planning board recommending approval. Also, in our subdivision ordinance, more than 3 lots require either an improved road or a separate easement.
All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone here wish to speak for this item?
There is one request I would like to make, or a partial change
Please
to
state
that.
your name for the record.
Edward Miles, the petitioner.
Thank you.
One thing that after the last meeting, I noticed that from the property line to the home is about 56 feet, and from the property line to the septic system is about 16 feet. And if I could make a request to use 15 feet of my property and 15 feet of that county property to make a 30-foot easement, and use the existing 60-foot right-of-way coming down, use that 60-foot right-of-way coming down, and to make that left-hand turn, can I approach?
Well, let me ask this question as we're trying to get into it with the changes you're requesting. The planning board made the motion to approve it, but to keep the easement on his property.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on conversations that were had with what he's asking now, does what he's asking now?
What the planning board was wanting to recommend, there's an existing 60-foot easement that these 3 current lots use.
Okay.
I believe it's the planning board's intention to allow Mr. Miles to use the existing easement and then place the easement onto his own property for what he intends to split out.
Does that fall in line with the change that he's requesting right this minute?
Mr. Miles, if you look up here, the parcel in blue is his, the part to the north of it belongs to the county. Our wastewater treatment plant is just off to the right. You see it right there? He's asking to come and use 15 feet of property owned by the county rather than placing the entire easement on his property. That is what I spoke to y'all about at the last meeting of creating the spray field out of, so we have a use for that property. I don't believe we can grant that request. It's going to conflict with what we're trying to use that property for.
But we could go along with what the planning board recommended. Is that correct?
Is that correct, or are you still requesting 15 foot?
Because I didn't realize that these, because you're requiring a 60-foot right-of-way on mine, correct? Or would we be able to reduce it to a 30-foot right-of-way?
That would be up to the board.
Right. If we do a 60-foot...
Planning board's recommendation on that part of it.
So he
If
would,
I understand.
he would use the existing 60-foot easement and then place an easement on his property to what he intends to.
Well, there's no establishment.
I think to your question, did they say 30 or 60? I don't know if the planning board specified.
So that's what I'm trying to get an understanding of at this moment. So I can hear that we can't probably use our own property, I get that. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out, we may not be able to give him exactly what he's asking for, but can we make it work? And that's what I'm trying to understand from staff. They can help me tell me if we can make it work with him using his own property.
Well, you can, obviously the board has approved other property subdivisions on a 30-foot easement. You did one, I believe, at your last meeting, the one on Benjamin and Road. So there's a 60-foot easement that goes from Low Round to Mr. Miles' property. The easement in question is from there going back to where he wants to subdivide it. There would be one parcel on that, and it's both, is that a family parcel?
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
So it'll be for use of someone, a family member. So what he is requesting, I guess, is to have a 60-foot easement from Low Ground to his property and a 30-foot easement traversing his property to the one parcel. Yes, that is certainly within y'all's purview to do so. You've done so recently to allow a 30-foot easement.
But we need to say where it's, how it's going to be located. That's what I'm trying to understand. I don't want to word it wrong where I create a problem.
On this map, is it the parcel that is shown as Wade McDonald? No?
It must be this.
Well, it says 26.89.
I don't think there's any of those, Chairman. I think those are the ones showing the easement coming into the roof.
There's several platforms, which one in particular?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, where the easement is in connection with.
Yes, it would be that's right. It's that 20-acre piece and the Wade McDonald piece.
Okay, page 5.
So it's this, so it's this one with the marked up?
Yeah, the Union Camp's the one that we bought. We bought that property from Union Camp.
What's the safest way to let him use the 60-foot and then use the 30 on his own property, but be sure we cover that it's being in the appropriate area? So anyone needs to be set on that or what not?
Well, if you see on the same plat the chairman's talking about, you see that 60-foot easement terminating down there, you could say from the end of the existing 60-foot easement to the new property could be a 30-foot easement.
30-foot easement.
Located on his, basically his northern property line.
The only question I had was on that 30-foot easement, the septic system for that existing home is on that 30-foot easement. Would that be in a violation of anything there? Are we creating an easement with an object within the easement?
Yes, you would be creating an easement with an object inside the easement. Whether it's a violation of that or not, it's an access easement, I would think, between you and whomever the property owner is.
That's fine.
Is it possible to locate that some other place instead of adjacent to the property line to drop down south of that clear area through there? How would you actually access this property?
My preferable would be access it right along the property line in front, behind the wooded area, where the wooded area is, where the property line is, just access it right there through there.
That's where the septic system is?
Right, I've got about, from the property line to the septic system is about 16 feet, and about from the property line to the existing home is about 56 feet. But we could work with a 30-foot, easement there, but if there was a possibility to have an encroachment upon an extra 10 or 15 feet of that county line right there, that would keep me away from the septic system.
I understand, and I think all we're saying is we're going to utilize that edge of that property for something else.
Gotcha, okay.
I think there'd be a conflict there.
Gotcha, okay.
For what we're planning on utilizing that for.
Okay.
Some
The
proceedings.
county has a need already.
That's correct.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. This wasn't worked out at planning board, Dave, about how and where.
They were pretty adamant about, because his original petition was a variance across this county parcel
They
39340.
simply just took care of it, not going to be on our property, but then they didn't take care of how it would work.
They recommended approving the existing 60-foot easement and then an easement on it.
Okay, so that does go over the septic system.
Right. That was not brought up.
I'm sorry.
That was not brought up at the planning board meeting.
I didn't realize that until I went
They weren't
back.
aware of it.
Right, no one was aware of it. I wasn't aware until I went out and looked at the measurements and, and brought it this time. But if it's,
I mean, it's a problem, because you're not going to want to run an easement across the septic system.
Yeah, you don't want vehicles driving. over.
Are you in a time frame where you can try to work out some other option drawings?
yes. Mhm. There's a 16-foot from the property line to where the septic system starts, so I've got that much that would not violate the system. If the system being within the right-of-way wouldn't violate anything.
So you wouldn't be driving directly over?
No, we're not driving directly over, it'd be over to the side. I didn't know if you could create an easement with an object within that easement. In other words,
So as long as we're approving it with the easement being on his, does it matter if we specify where? Like he can just figure that out? Okay.
I would think that would be accurate. I mean, at such time he brings a flag, he's got to have an easement.
Is this an existing easement?
Just come out here.
The 60-foot access is an existing easement off of ground back to his current property.
But I think
There's a 6-foot easement coming right straight.
Right along the
Right.
property.
So the septic system is currently in an easement? Okay, that's what I'm trying to do.
From where it is, if you see up here, if you go to the right, go down that property, that's where the septic system is one of them.
But I guess-
I'm sorry, he wants to subdivide the triangle piece out.
But I guess what I'm saying is, I see it as two options if we want to try to work with him, which would be my goal. Okay, the two options would be, we put it off until he brings back a drawing that shows how the easement would work, or we say we approve it using a 60-foot, and then he can use a 30-foot on his own property to be determined at his, but we'll have to present a drawing.
Yeah, well, he still has to bring a plat in. He's not yet brought a subdivision plat in, so yes, absolutely, you can do that. Just at the time that he brings the plat in, there will have to be an easement from the end of that 60-foot easement to this property.
We don't have to work out the details of how.
No, you don't. It'll be staff will have to ensure that there's easement, same as we would in other times.
I don't know that there's anything inherently wrong with you, where you can't have a septic system in the easement. It may become a civil matter between two parties.
We just wouldn't want it.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't want it.
It would be a better solution.
if it was done after the fact.
After the fact.
Mr. Miles, what is the, do you have plans for the rest of the land you're wanting to cut off?
I was going to take the triangle and build a house there, and I'll sell the other part to my son, youngest son. Because the other son lives on that 5.5 acres down right below that, so it'd be sort of like, I would sell that to him.
Is there anything that would prohibit you from coming straight on in with that 60-foot easement and coming across the back side of the property?
I'll have to examine that. It's a little bit, wetter on that back side than
Or
that.
down through the middle of it so that you could
But that's what I'm
split off
saying.
property on both sides of it?
But that's what I'm saying. He may want more time if we don't have.
Yeah, because that'll present, if we come through the middle of an easement, that'll present a problem for whatever future use. If he wants to eventually build a home himself, that may pose an existing problem. Where if it's over to the side.
Now's the time to figure it out before something else gets built up there.
Because that's why I was making a petition for the 15 feet on the county right-of-way plus 15 feet on mine. But I understand y'all's use.
So let's
Right, yeah, I understand that.
look at the alternative.
But we don't have to determine where tonight, because it's something he needs to put some thought into if we
Right.
didn't need to do that. That's what I'm trying to be sure of.
But that you would allow for a 30-foot easement to come down there. That would be the
On your-
agreement.
Leave that up to
On your own
you,
property.
decide where it goes.
Okay. Now, the plat that I would bring back in later presentation, would that need to be authorized or just a general idea?
Well, it depends on what this board says tonight. If this board makes a motion to approve it, with a 30-foot easement to the property at a location to be mutually agreed upon by you and staff,
Okay.
then no, it doesn't have to come back to us. If this board says we're going to allow a 30-foot easement, but we want you to draw it on a plat and bring it back to us, then yes, it's gonna come back. It all depends on what this board decides tonight.
Gotcha.
And you said you are not in a real big time frame.
No, sir.
You're not in a time frame, so.
Not in a tight time frame, no, sir.
Personally, it would be my wishes that you work with staff to come up with something that would be acceptable. I have concerns about going over a drain field or a septic tank. If it was done after the fact, the health department, I don't think would approve it. So I don't think we should allow for something to happen that would not be approved. You understand?
Right.
He wants to do that anyway.
And if you and staff can work it out, if this board would say, we will approve a 30-foot easement, then it's whatever this board decides tonight, okay?
Sounds great.
Okay? Yeah. B,
Thank you.
this is a public hearing. Does anyone else here wish to speak for? Anyone here wish to speak against? All right, I'll close the public hearing. This is in the second district, correct? What say you?
Well, I want to ask this question. I can pose it to staff and any other commissioners just to verify if I understand that this seems to would work correctly. Because I want my motion to be correct. Because the only way the planning board recommended it was just to keep the easement on his property, period. And I don't think I can just simply say that. So would covering it be, and do you see a problem with this? Because if you see a problem, would you tell me? Okay? That we would approve his use of the 60-foot easement where it exists, and then we approve a 30-foot easement on his property to be determined acceptable between himself and staff.
Health department.
If he intends to try to avoid or not avoid the septic tank, I think the health department should probably be involved.
Okay, and health department. My only thinking, this is what I'm trying to think through, is we don't care if he puts a 30-foot easement on his own property. Like, we don't have to be overly involved in that or overly governing of that, other than what we're saying. So that's what I was trying to, if that's the case, then I'm okay with doing that way.
And that's why I said it depends on the motions
It's
and what is voted on by this commission.
Do you feel any different?
No, I think that's.
Funny, have we not known about it?
Okay. Will that be acceptable with you?
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll make that motion I'll make the motion that we approve his usage of the existing 60-foot easement where it currently is located, and where it ends, he can begin a 30-foot easement on his own property to be futurely determined by himself and approved by staff and the health department of Effingham County.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Lover. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. We got it?
Thank you.
Next item, planning board recommends approving an application by Craig and Joanne Mueller to rezone 1.59 acres located off of Knoll C. Conaway Road, State Route Highway 30 from R1 to AR2, map number 418, parcel number 28A in the second district.
Staff recommends approval. A plat has already been provided, so they will not need to provide a plat. They own the adjacent property and wish to use it for a horse riding area. Or pasture.
This is a public hearing. Anyone here wish to speak for the rezoning?
Joanne Mueller, I'm the petitioner. My husband Craig Mueller. We bought this piece of property. It's 1.59 acres. It's contiguous to our property, which is already zoned AR1. We just want to zone this AR2 so that we could have horses pastured on it.
Okay. Anyone else here wish to speak for the rezoning? Anyone here against? Second district.
Looks like planning board staff recommendations for the same.
Yes, ma'am.
Make a motion that we approve the request according to planning board staff recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, planning board recommends approving an application by Wayne McCall to rezone 1 acre located at 2385 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2, map number 340, parcel number 21 in the 3rd district.
Mr. McCullough wishing to rezone the AR2. He also has a variance on a 30-foot easement to be followed up on after this. Recommend y'all make your decision with intent of what you decide on variance. If y'all approve this and not the variance, then it's a moot point as far as you don't have access.
Which is what planning board?
So if we don't have an intention of the variance, this is not.
Correct.
All right, so let's take these things up together since they are part and parcel together. Can we do that? We can do that.
You can discuss them together.
We can discuss them together. All right, so we've got 2 different items, one being the one already mentioned. The next one is going to be planning board recommends to deny an application by Wayne McCullough for a variance use to access a 30-foot easement which serves more than 3 lots located at 2385 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2, map number 340, parcel number 21 in the 3rd district. All right. So having said that, anyone here in the public hearing wish to speak for?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that would be me, Wayne McCullough. I am wishing to rezone 1 acre for my stepson. As you're looking at that field, it would be in the upper right-hand corner, correct, right there. And to have the access, there's a 30-foot easement, L-shaped, all the way back out to the main highway there. And we want to continue to use that driveway. It services already 2 lots in my home, and 1 more is not going to make a difference, I don't think.
All right. Anyone else here wish to speak for this rezoning and or variance? Anyone here against? All right. 3rd district, what questions do you have?
I went by and looked at the property. It's approximately 300 feet from Old Dixie Highway. The road's in good condition. I spoke with Miss Sandra, who is the front lot that is on Old Dixie Highway. She has no issues with this. She told me that she would like her nephew to be able to build a house there, have residence there, so there is no opposition. So I'm good with it.
So the only question is the same thing that's come before this board before, whether to allow a 4th parcel on a 30-foot easement.
Which we've done a few times, in which we have discussed that we desperately need a policy change brought before us, because I think we're going to get tons of these until we do. So.
I'm happy to change
We've got a draft policy change, or we're going to be having.
I'm happy to change it if someone will give me some guidance, give me some language to start with, and I can craft it and make sure it complies and becomes part of the ordinance. That's all I ask. But you're right, it does need to be addressed. This is the probably 4th one we've dealt with, and they've all been similar. It's going to be that one that's not similar, the one that's not family.
Of course, then again, Commissioner Deloach has done the homework to actually talk to the other parties who are affected by this to be sure that if it wasn't for the ordinance being as it is, that consideration might not have been given to all property owners. So. You know, one side to look at it, it's good for us to discuss it, another side, it's shouldn't be a pain. So, in your district, you have a motion? We're going to vote on the first one first.
All right, second, okay.
But knowing, well, it's two
Yeah,
different.
your public hearing was for item number 4. Well, probably the public hearing is number 5.
That's why I said and or the variance. I asked for both. Are we good? He wanted both, nobody's in opposition to either one, so I'm gonna close the public hearing on both items, and we're gonna take a vote on the first with the total understanding you're gonna have to have the second one.
I make a motion to approve the request to go from AR1 to AR2 with staff recommendations.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Deloach, second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Now on the item for the variance. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the fourth parcel on the 30-foot easement on Old Dixie Highway.
Motion by Commissioner Deloach, second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Vote unanimous. We'll have a second reading here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Next item, the planning board recommends to approve an application by Faith Equestrian Therapeutic Center Incorporated for a conditional use to construct a horse arena for classes located at 183 Appaloosa Way, map number 3718, parcel number 29.
Staff recommends granting approval for the conditional use for commercial riding stable, section, as long as they meet section 5.1.2.
All right. It's a public hearing. Anyone here wish to speak for this rezoning?
I do, sir. I'm Veronica Rochelle, agent for Faith Equestrian Therapeutic Center. We run a nonprofit organization for children with disabilities. We use horses to help them. We are wanting to make a covered arena to help them when the weather is bad, these fragile children, so that we can hold their classes if it's a rainy day or if it's too hot in the summer. It just makes it easier on the children for us to have the arena covered. That's what we're asking permit.
All right. Anyone else here wish to speak for this rezoning? Anyone here against? I'll close the public hearing. This is in the 4th district.
Make a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. This is the first I've heard of this, and it sounds interesting.
Well, I'd love y'all to come out and see us.
I would like that invitation. This sounds very good. Anything to help children.
Yes, sir. Well, we work with the school systems now, and so that's part of their curriculum as the special needs kids with disabilities. They come out to us so that we're kind of a different type of way to open their minds and help them learn life skills. So
I was wondering how you got your referrals, how people came to know what you do.
Well, we don't do a lot of advertising because it's not budgeted, but there's a lot of word of mouth out there. And we just got our accreditation today. We're very proud of that. We're almost 10 years old, and we went through our premier accreditation, and anybody who knows about that knows that we follow the highest standards. And so we're very excited. It's been a long day for me.
Well, our press is here. Maybe they can help you out a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I've been out there a few times.
You have?
My grandkids, yes.
You look familiar.
I went to Newington, what was it, last year?
Pennsylvania? Yes, sir, for
I was up there.
the special...
Nayland, his little girl's name.
Okay, yeah.
She got a third place and she wouldn't take it because it wasn't blue.
That's right. We had to give her a bouquet of flowers to help her feel better about it.
Thank you for your work. I'm sorry you have to be subjected to coming out there.
Anyway,
Thank y'all very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Oh, do I just go to get the permit? Do I just go see?
You can, after we take this second vote.
Oh, I got you. We got a second thing, okay.
All right. In additions to the agenda for the planning board presentments, item number 7, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Fletcher Wallpower to rezone 1 acre located at 4440 Blue Jay Road from AR1 to AR2, map number 326, parcel number 36 in the 1st district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
second.
A motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Edwards M. Miles for a variance use to allow for access to adjoining property located at 925 Low Ground Road, map number 393, parcel number 39, in the 2nd district.
Make a motion that we approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Floyd. And I presume that is with the same stipulations as before.
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Craig and Joanne Mueller to locate 1.59 acres located off of Noel C. Conaway Road, State Route Highway 30, from R1 to AR2, map number 418, parcel number 28A in the 2nd district.
Motion to approve the second reading, same stipulations as the first.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Wayne McCullough to rezone 1 acre located at 2385 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2, map number 340, parcel number 21 in the 3rd district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Glow, second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Wayne McCullough for a variance use to access a 30-foot easement which serves more than 3 lots located at 2385 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2, map number 340, parcel number 21 in the 3rd district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Deloach, second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Faith Equestrian Therapeutic Center Incorporated for a conditional use to construct a horse arena for classes located at 183 Appaloosa Way, map number 371A, parcel number 29.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. All right. Y'all are welcome to stay. That completes the planning board agenda. But happy to have the company. Stick around. We got more business to do. Thank y'all for coming. Monday vacation. Oh, man, I'm burned up. Get one out.
Where we start on number 10.
Thank you for reminding me. All right, next item, Item number 11, consideration to approve the credit card resolution ordinance and user agreement for the use of purchasing cards.
During the 2015 legislative session, the General Assembly adopted House Bill 192, which changed the way that county officials may use county-issued purchasing cards and credit cards. Beginning January 1st of next year, no county elected official may use a county purchasing and credit card unless the Board of Commissioners has publicly voted to authorize the elected officials to use the card, has also adopted a policy regarding the use of said card, and each elected official that chooses to use the card enters into a contract regarding the use of said card. We gave you at your last meeting, just as information, simple resolution ordinance and user agreement that was prepared by ATCG that had some modifications on it that staff had made to fit you all and this county specifically. The ordinance defines the terms under which the purchasing card may be used. The resolution authorizes the use of the cards, and the user agreement just says you agree to abide by all those terms. You have in front of you the same agreement that we gave you last time in two different versions, marked up and in its final form. Is the only difference is so you could read through all the red that was on there. Nothing has changed since the previous submission that we gave y'all. It is in line with our current purchasing policies. Staff has reached out to all elected officials in the county and made them aware that this was coming. To my knowledge, there's no one's jumped up and down pitched much of a tantrum at this point, as it really doesn't affect much. So, with that, we would ask that the board adopt the resolution, ordinance, and user agreement in that format so we can move forward to allow y'all to continue to use purchasing cards.
But I am correct, everybody's going to, all elected officials will have to sign an agreement?
Yes, sir. And those persons are outlined in the agreement on the second page of it. It says exactly who all those people work. We have to specifically authorize them by title, not in name.
And all of those parties have been talked to?
That is my understanding. I have not done it myself, but yes, sir, I've been told that every one of them has been contacted.
Well, I just think that was the discussion from the board to go ahead and put them on notice so it's not jumping out. That's right.
Basically, we had our own policy, but the legislators, created a law. We were just tweaking it to meet it.
That's correct. We had a policy, we did not have a resolution and an ordinance enacting that policy. That's really what this does.
That's right. It just pulls a piece out of policy to tell us, okay, we heard the law, we've done what we're supposed to do.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Motion?
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve travel for commissioners and staff for Effingham Day at the Capitol.
Discussion. You just said it all.
Yes, I think we discussed this, on committee reports on a couple of occasions. This is the annual event you all tend to go to. I believe everyone's going this year, and this is just as per your policy. We would like for y'all to approve that officially.
My only question is, do we, since it's going to be travel and it's going to be in conjunction with this, do we want to talk about our expanded agenda? It's the same trip.
It's up to you all how far you want to go. I think this covers it. It just says, you're going to go up there. It covers the hotel cost and the cost of the reception. And again, it's up to you. It's up to you all, whatever y'all want to discuss. Well, actually, that's true. RC just brought up the point that this is not actually correct now because the chamber picked up 10 starting in January, which would be this. So that $125 cost will technically come out of it.
It won't pick up everything?
No, sir. It'll pick up the 125 cost. So instead of 2, it'll pick up 10, which there's 6 of y'all. So it'll cover everybody's.
But for total transparency.
But for travel, for hotels and for mileage and.
That's correct. All of that will still be in there, that's correct.
But it's my understanding from our earlier conversation, all the commissioners have been talked to about this expanded agenda that would
Yes.
mean that we would be going up on Saturday rather than Sunday.
That's correct.
So for total transparency, I would like this board to, in their motion of approving travel, to be sure that it includes the cost involved in everything.
Is it just one extra day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I didn't know if it was definite or just.
Instead of going up on
You know,
Sunday.
and I think we've all talked about it, individually, we have not done it, together.
We can approve it to include it, and then if we do it, we do it, if we don't.
Yeah.
That is correct.
It would be one additional night's hotel stay, that's
Yep.
correct.
I'll be glad to do that.
All right. Give it to me. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Okay.
Well, consideration. I'll make a motion that we approve the travel for all the commissioners and staff needed to attend Effingham Day at the Capitol. To also cover, if we so choose, an additional day for meetings, possible
Workshops.
workshop. Yeah,
Up to include Saturday and Sunday.
one additional day, yeah.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve clerk travel for the Georgia Clerk Education Institute Regional Training. Where are you going, Stephanie?
The lovely.
Is there a mall plus?
No.
Oh.
Mason's getting them all.
It can't, of course, it can't be far from them all.
Well,
There you go. Any questions, discussion, motion?
Make a motion to approve on
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve to issue a termination letter to Ecological Planning Group LLC for the on-demand services agreement for professions consulting services.
The
We'd
county,
already done.
we did not. We currently have an on-demand services agreement with the Ecological Planning Group. What you're thinking of is we transferred that from an on-demand with task orders to a yearly, but we had to leave it in place because the report's not issued until the following, I don't see, it's later in the year anyhow. They do the monitoring up through December, and they have to like February or March to submit the reports, so we had to leave it in place. That work has been done, we want to cancel that. There is now work done under a separate agreement each year, that has been rebid, and it will be on your next agenda for next year's monitoring. This is just a holdover of the way we did it in the past. So we're just asking that y'all finally terminate that.
All right. Questions, discussion, motion?
Have a motion to approve alternate number 1.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lover, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a resolution to amend the Effingham County Schedule of Fees.
We can skip another one.
Did I skip it?
Let's get to that time.
I did. I'm ready.
That would get us somewhere.
There you go. All right. Approved to authorize chairman to sign an easement purchase and sale contract and a utility and drainage easement.
Effingham County provides water and sewer service to Winfield subdivision on the lift station located on the property that was intended to be the second phase, which has now been purchased by Mr. Larson. And it was done in multiple phases. We ended up with a lift station. There's some easement that goes through there. We've been back and forth trying to figure out, whether or not we had title to the infrastructure and or easements, and through a long time, a lot of discussions, we've come to a mutual agreement with the landowner for the purchase of those agreements. So you have two documents here. One's a purchase and sale contract, and the other is the actual easement agreement that goes with those. And there's a plat. And we've enjoyed the work on Mr. Larson so much, we put him at the end of a 2.5-hour meeting here. So he is here tonight, can certainly answer your questions, but I believe, I don't want to speak for him, I believe he's okay with this document at this point. Mr. Newberry drafted that. We've shared it back and forth. He had some additional concerns that I believe we've addressed at this point. I think we're all in agreement as to what we need and how we need to go about it. And at this point, I think we just need to get this thing done.
I wondered who that was still waiting.
Oh, no.
He's just a loyal citizen. He loves government.
Just interested in
For Mr. Larson, since you have taken your time to come, I want to give you an opportunity to speak if you want.
I don't have anything, sir.
But everything is stated by staff. We have reached agreement.
Yes, sir.
This is it.
This is it.
Thank you very much for your working with us. All right.
Make a motion that we approve alternative 1. I want to thank Mr. Larson and Towson on the hard work getting this settled.
And I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Sorry that it took us this long.
Well, it shouldn't stay out of the country, so. But we do appreciate your service and doing that. All right. Consideration to approve to authorize the chairman to execute a contract for professional engineering services for water, sewer, and reuse infrastructure along Old Augusta Road.
We received a request some time back to extend water up Old Augusta Road to accommodate some future development that was coming there. The person making that request, I guess we discussed it with the board informally, from time to time, and the direction that at least staff believes they received on this was to move forward with this project, as long as there was an actual project to be served. They have, the property owner has an agreement, I guess, a contract with someone to purchase 16 acres of property for the use of 250 units in an apartment complex. So that agreement is in place. Staff has been moving forward in the background, I guess, with things that we could do without making commitments to the board. We've requested engineering proposals for the work. We've been back and forth with GFA. We have submitted a loan application to them, and until it's approved, it's not signed by this board, so you all can still say no. That approval goes to GFA's board on January the 25th, which happens to be the date we will be in Atlanta for the travel you all just approved. So we will see what happens on that date, but the only other thing we've done is some internal cost estimates of the project and trying to get it forward. Basically, what staff did on the engineering proposal, we did not put this out there for bid, just under our normal process. There's an existing set of construction documents that were drawn for that particular, for that and more going all the way to Grandview. There will be some changes to that as some of the route will change to the wetlands and different property owners. And the original plans were done prior to Old Augusta Road being built, so it wasn't exactly topo. So we asked Mr. Vaughn to go back and give us a price on that because he was involved in the original documents. In a subsequent meeting that we had, EMC had done some work. They had asked you all for approval for a well for some property that Mr. Collins used to own on Old Augusta. And in that process, we had asked them to come up with some estimates of how big the line would be and so on and so forth. So they had done some work. So we just told them to send us a proposal. And then the third one we got was from Hussey Bell, who was the principal officer on most of our water system. So we basically just went out and got people that we thought, were most familiar with the system and would be willing to do it the cheapest. You have three prices there. EMC happens to be the cheapest. The way that they priced them, because of some of the uncertainty on the route, there were some things that were priced as hourly services like easement plats, because they don't know how many parcels are going through. EMC priced 2 easement plats with anything above that being additional. The way that we believe that we would do that now, there will be 3 parcels involved. So there would be an additional service to their fee. The way Jim Vaughn priced his, who's the next lowest bidder, it was all hourly. There's about $13,000 difference plus all the hourly. So when it all adds up, it's probably $20,000 difference so between both. It's professional service, it's completely up to y'all. You take the low bidder, you take Mr. Vaughn, who's been involved, that's completely up to you all, how y'all want to proceed. Or you can tell us to go get more bids, again, it's completely up to y'all.
And what's the estimated cost of running the line itself?
The estimated cost of the line is right at $2 million. It depends on what you do, maybe slightly over. That's water, sewer, and reuse. And that was pulling reuse all the way back from Goshen. And that's something we all need to have a discussion on. Our current ordinance says any new development has to bring reuse. However, for the cost of doing it, I see no benefit to doing this because of it's all single-family residential. Any use we get on that counts 0 towards our permit. There's no benefit for us to bring that down there. And quite frankly, the biggest benefit I would say would be to the action tract as it develops, because there's probably a lot of single-family residential that, if nothing else, can utilize it for irrigation of their yards. They could come back and get it later, without the benefit of this project. There's 2 reasons we did it. One, to comply with the ordinance, which we probably need to make amendments to, because there's going to be there's potential for areas that are not even on our water sewer system that our ordinance says has reuse water, and it's just impractical in some places to get it there. We need to revisit that. Secondly, it does help on our interest rate a little bit because that's a conservation measure. It's a 1-something%. The rest of the loans about 3, and they'll blend those 2 together proportionally. But it's also more money. They're blending that cost. So right now, what we have submitted to them is water sewer reuse, and it's $2.5 million total. But that's the cost of the infrastructure, a contingency, the engineering, the whole long application. The cost of the infrastructure was a little over $2 million, just barely over $2 million.
And when the project gets constructed, what would be our anticipated income?
250 units is $1.65 million in water sewer reuse impact fees. And the benefit of that is that because it's an apartment, it's a one-time check. It's not built over 20 years. So we would recoup $1.65 million against our $2.2 million investment on infrastructure plus our engineering costs, which we submitted the loan application at 2.5. I just told you the engineering was like 60. So it'll be just over 2 million. We just want to make sure we had adequate funds there to build this.
But the line is how much further down Old Augusta Road?
The line I don't know the footage, Mr. Chairman, but it's all the way beyond Mr. McCormick's property. It's probably 3,000 feet or so, a little better than half a mile up Old Augusta Road, which is pretty much all we'd ever serve because of the way our service area is. And I'll have to say in the conversation today, this is nothing in stone, but the same person is also negotiating with another gentleman for 120 units right behind it, and it feels like they're pretty certain about that.
So then we would be ahead of the game.
We'd be ahead of the game. Now, I'm not telling you that's gonna happen, I'm just saying they're having.
The short version is we have a user paying to run the line there that would also benefit many other people, and that would also be able to recoup additional money on.
And have paying customers.
That's correct, it's also operating.
How close would this get to Effingham Lane Road with that other parcel from?
So Abercorn Lane is about halfway because between the end of this parcel, you've got all those 5 to 10 acre tracts that run along there. It's about halfway. There's still another half mile to get out.
So, but this could potentially help them move along.
Because
okay.
But this gets us under 21.
Getting halfway there.
That's correct.
Did you say 2.5 includes reuse?
That's right.
And so, with you saying it doesn't really make sense, we definitely need to fix the ordinances where, that's a problem often when you make policies or whatever, is you make them as a blanket, and then they don't fit certain things, and so we definitely need to fix that because it'll make certain things not work for us, cost-wise. How can we adjust that? Do we need to adjust that to JEPA in some way?
we're still submitting information to GFA, so I think it's easy enough to adjust
stays
the
in that,
reuse
yeah.
portion of it. We can pull that out and say we don't want to fund the reuse anymore. The rate will stay at about 3 instead of whatever the blended rate would have been. But again, we're borrowing less money also. It was a couple, if I remember right, it was about $200,000.
At that point, we almost get to uneven.
You'd be much closer, yes. And this was also, you all approved the update of our water model a while back, so we're able to take that information and ask the consultant to come in and tell us what it needed to be, and the 16-inch line we originally put can actually go to 12, because at that point you're dictated by fire flow. Fire flow is your biggest demand, you know, at 1,000 gallons a minute, that's what dictates your stuff. So we're able to get adequate flow of pressure at the farthest end of it with a 12-inch line, so we're able to reduce some of that infrastructure costs.
I think we need engineering done, don't you? Do you all feel that way?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that.
But we don't need to put the 16 for further development?
No, sure, because you run up into Rankin service area. So unless we're gonna go into their service area, the farthest we'll ever go is Alcorn Road or Chimney Road, which is where it comes out.
But for right now, we need to approve, in my opinion, EMC Engineering Services for,
Again, that's completely, they're definitely the lower bid, but if you want it for historical knowledge, Mr. Bond, it's completely up to this board how to do it. But I mean, they're both engineering firms. I believe any of the three are capable of getting the work done.
Well, the historical knowledge is really only going to come in handy to the
I'm not
engineer doing it.
necessarily in favor of the historical knowledge.
I'm not, I don't like what was done, so why would we want to?
Say a lot of things about that.
All right, somebody give me a
I make a motion to approve the agreement with EMC Engineering Services.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Kiefer, second by Commissioner Floyd, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Now, can we get to the consideration to approve a resolution to amend the Effingham County Schedule of Fees?
Maybe ready already?
Yeah.
Let's not go on.
We had one in our book and then another one as well. Was there changes?
No changes, that one's just clean, the one in the gray folder.
Just has all the changes except for the.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that was in your book obviously has the markup, so you can see where it was from the old schedule of fees. We discussed
Somebody
it.
asked for that.
Just to keep on that, that's the last meeting we discussed at least the concept behind the changes in the schedule of fees, in which our water sewer capital cost recovery will go from a meter size to an actual flow valuation based on a schedule. And on building permits, the request was to change, to leave residential alone, but to change commercial and industrial to being charged by valuation rather than just square footage. And the biggest reason for that change was the growing number of projects that we have that don't fit a square footage method, such as a solar farm or DRT that's coming along, that's a lot of pipes and tanks and things out there. So we were having, there was no mechanism in our existing ordinance by which to equitably do that. We were almost having to make it up and get in dangerous territory. So what you have in front of you is a proposal to change the building fees. Again, residential stays the same, so there's a lot of things that got stricken out of there because it goes to 1 and 2 family dwellings and anything else pretty much is what it becomes. So anything other than a 1 or 2 family dwelling, the proposal is to assess at $7 per $1,000 of value. And that would be based on the greater of $100 per square foot or the submitted value that comes in with a value, with a total permit fee not to exceed $150,000. So, you know, if it's a $400 million project, your permit fee total will still be $150,000. The idea behind the $100 per square foot or submitted value was so that, you know, people aren't coming and saying $20 a foot, to just make sure we get real value. One of the things that you all might want to consider, though, that was brought up to me earlier today, is that by using that, there are certain instances in commercial building that are like warehousing type things or mini storage, things that don't really have anything in them but a shelf, that the value's not gonna be $100 a foot. So what you may want to consider in that is just saying $100 per foot heated, some other number per foot unheated, and we still would have that out there. Now, the only issue, I guess, in thinking through that would be maybe a DRT, which is an unheated thing, but it's tanks and pipes. So I think there's a good point there that we've, or either back that number down or something, you know, but that may cause some issues in certain instances. Yeah. Or we could just go to 7 per thousand. The only issue we run into is then we have to trust valuations.
Whatever they put on it themselves?
Well, yes.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I mean, I think there needs to be some benchmark, but I do agree that there's some inequities created here.
I was just talking to Phil, I mean, like a mini warehouse could be $60 a foot, or it could be conditioned space.
Yeah,
They
it's
could
climate
push it-
control.
Climate control and push it to the 100.
And it's
But I was
still-
thinking on the lines of, small, an office warehouse, if it's 5,000 square foot, but 800 of office,
Yeah.
the burden on the inspectors is not gonna be 3 times what it is on the residential, but the permit fee would be. Does that make sense?
Inspecting warehouse is nothing compared to, a big open building like that.
Depends, if it's got pressure in it or if it don't. I mean, there's so many factors when you get to commercial buildings.
Did we use this as a model from somewhere? And this is all they had?
Chatham County. It was based on, I believe that
It's
information.
not well thought
Did I
out.
not give you all that? I may have done it. It was based on Chatham County, but I think Chatham County had a few more caveats, but it was.
I would think if you.
Why don't you put a price tag?
Well, that makes everybody have an appraisal prior to.
They got one anyhow.
Not everybody. Some people build them too. I mean, you're gonna make them do it.
Well, you get your appraisal, it's cheaper to break out the parking lot, because the building permit has nothing to do with the parking lot or the land or.
Well, most appraisals would have all those items broken out, I would think. But I mean, that would be the way to make it actual.
I think sometimes it depends on the project, like a DRT, that's a major project, they're gonna have pretty accurate cost estimations on there. That came from some group of engineering and architectural folks that are out there doing it. But, some smaller commercial developments may not have that, and it's just the accessibility of that data.
Does putting in heated cover that?
I don't, my concern with doing that, as I think through it, is a solar farm. What is that? Do we then get into the same problems of, we were trying to get away from square footage, type thing, so, but I don't know if you can make it warehouse, if that's too generic.
What are our building inspectors looking at on the solar farm?
The electrical connections, how everything's wired and so forth, goes there, I think is the biggest portion of what they're inspecting out there. The footings for these things, as you're poured, to make sure that, because it's just a bit tight for all intents and purposes. They got a pretty big foot number. They're looking at that, they're looking at the electrical connections. It's mainly electrical, that's what it is, life safety type thing.
So what are we talking about, appraisals?
And Noel was not feeling well, so that's why he's
How
not
to
here.
charge for the permit, whether you do it on the value they put down with it requiring $100 a square foot, or are you gonna make them go do an appraisal, and whatever the appraisal says, they go by that. That makes them get an appraisal before they ever get a permit.
So I'm saying, we're going to be conscious of the bank process.
More unnecessary government.
So the appraisal already done through a bank process.
They shouldn't.
Yeah. This is going to be addressed
They
now.
can't. That's
Make
the-
sure we're going to get two appraisals.
That blanket can't go.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
You wanna make them do an appraisal first?
No, I was just making sure, I just wanted to be mindful of the bank process, because if anything financed, the bank's going to have it appraisal addressed to the banking institution. But which that
There are plenty
will
of
already
people
done in
still
the
without,
process.
without typical.
Well, why don't you say $7 per thousand of construction value based on greater of $100 a square foot or appraised value?
Or appraised value?
Or appraised
Because I think that's the problem, the greater of would mean if it's less, if the appraised value is less
Yeah,
than
it's gonna
100,
be,
you're usually
yeah.
$100.
I mean, there's a lot of construction, commercial, that's gonna be a lot less than $100 a square foot.
Because they do
Sure.
typically do warehouse
Yeah.
type building.
Yeah.
And I don't want to protract this too long, but I mean, you could just say $7 per foot for $7 per thousand of construction value, and leave the rest of it out, and then we can have a discussion on what that needs to be if you want to go ahead and make this change so that we have ability to do it. The others are water and sewer, and we'll do it, however y'all want to. If you want to wait and try to come up with different language.
Something like except for what's included on the exclusion list, and then later approve an exclusion list?
Well, what I'm saying, there will be no excluded, it's just whatever the construction value, whatever someone submits.
And then we can change it.
And I guess we would have the right to question if it looked odd. I mean, if somebody comes in with a $10 foot price, I don't think that's happening. But we ought to have some reasonable knowledge of what it is. And like I said, this came directly from Chatham County, that's exactly what it says, and that's what no took. It was just some stopgap measure.
Maybe we can get one from another,
Is there
another county somewhere about the same size and compare them to what Chatham County had.
Is theirs 150 total or 100?
Theirs has no cap.
Oh, it doesn't?
It does not.
Some do.
I think Cooler does.
But you need the fees approved tonight,
No, no.
the list?
Not necessarily. I think our bigger concern may have been water and sewer, but I don't know that anybody's standing here to submit something tomorrow. I mean, we could wait for the next meeting if y'all need to. I don't think we have any permits waiting that this is going to affect. Again, it was a problem for us on like a solar farm.
I
But
think we
there's
can
not
wait
much
and
city.
we ought to look at some other ideas.
I'm just not sure. You can take those concerns and tweak them, and let's table this to the, with the first meeting in January or second?
Y'all look at some other options and we'll do the same.
I mean, knowing that it's going to be on there, do we need to move it to the second meeting?
I was gonna say, so probably because of the holidays, you guys aren't gonna get to.
What's the date of the second meeting?
The 18th. I'm sorry, the 19th.
19th?
So then we'll be left with that.
All right, can I have a motion to have staff work on this, and let's
Table the
table this to January 19th?
I'll make a motion that we table the consideration of the fees until January 19th, and staff bring some additional input, especially for the permanent section.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Mr. Chairman.
How we can do that.
There's no broken way.
Mr. Chairman, I realize that the time for this was passed, but it would be nice if y'all could tell me if you have any issues with the water sewer side too, so that we can make any adjustments there as we come back. Are you fine with those amendments or just the building side?
How about if I can direct all the commissioners to look at it and get with you guys?
And I'll tell you, the way it came about is the city of Savannah schedule. I went and did a Google search of anybody I could find. I found 3. They were all very similar. I've added, the most that I can for all of them and adjusted them. So that's fine. Everyone proceed.
Each of y'all, please look at those and get with, send staff an email by Wednesday of next week so that they can start tweaking that. At least that way they can start compiling everybody's concern.
Get the customers input. About what they're doing in other areas of the world.
Do that?
Okay.
Is that the last item of business? Did I miss anything?
Other than Mr. Kiefer's motion.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
you in? I said all in favor. Oh, to go?
Yeah. Y'all want to go ahead and say, want to do committee reports first?
I think we need them.
Committee reports? Oh, you got it out, these are great.
All right, go ahead and get your committee report. Get those out of the way.
Is it first okay? Are you okay? Yes. Okay. Good job.
Big O, right? Your monthly senior citizens fire and shelter reports are attached as normal. City of Savannah I&D, they have contacted us. They intend to begin making upgrades to their facility beginning the latter part of January. What I was told by Mr. Sawyer is it would not be before January 18th. They don't know the exact schedule. It may start a little bit later, as late as the 1st of February. They're making some upgrades to, they've done some in the past on the electrical system. These are affecting the pumps. They will be taking pumps down, pushing us over to a different system as they did last time, which affects pressure at the county line. Normally they deliver about 70 PSI. This will get down to about 50. So we will have about a 20 PSI reduction.
By the time it gets to Emerald Plantation, it's going to be probably.
It'll be closer to 20. It'll be right at 20 because there's about 26 PSI drop from the county line to there. People are going to complain. They did last time, you know, and they have some issues there. Mr. Sawyer and I have discussed this. He is aware that we have them. He is trying to do everything he can to keep it from going below 20, but this is an 8 to 12 week process. It's not going to be quick.
When do water bills go out?
They go out first of the month. I've already spoken with Joanne, and we will have a letter in the warning the 1st of January. We'll be there before the 18th. So
Let's be proactive and send it to them to give them a heads up.
We'll send one to all surface water customers. We'll get a notice, but I want all of you all to know because the phone calls are probably the one to start.
90% of them will be in my district.
I know, because you have no state.
So
Okay.
I'm happy.
You have a thank you letter there from Mr. Wilkinson, you know, for y'all's recent support. Faith Equestrian has sent an annual appeal letter, and basically that sounds different than what it really is. They're appealing for donations is what it really is. If you read it, that's in there. ACCG District Days in the Capitol, again, will be, our district is February 17th, 8 till noon. In Atlanta, we do get 3 continuing education credits for going, if any of you would like to attend that. There's a calendar, I guess, of training opportunities for 2016 for ACG's Lifelong Learning Academy. So y'all can look at that and start seeing what training needs you have and where they fall out in there. And then you have a sheet of paper in here that Clarence sent to us, and I believe sent all the papers too, about 12 and under boys, our baseball team we have, the Jaguars, that won the state championship in their age group. So we're really proud of them. That's in there. One thing that's not on your list, the recreation facility schematic design package. Talked to Patrick today to see where that was. So we got to get it moving to be able to get groundbreaking progress plots. He said they're finishing up. They will have it complete in our hands first of next week. I have a meeting with him next Tuesday to get it, to receive it, to go over and talk about next steps. So that should be on y'all's first agenda in January. To actually see that, there'll be a revised cost estimate, full schematic design package, and between now and then I'll have him give us proposals to go forward in a couple different scenarios, and we'll bring that to you all for your consideration also, of how we move it from schematic design to final design. And that is all I have to do.
That didn't hurt too bad. Any other staff? Commissioners, ready?
Nope, I'm good to go. Okay. Merry Christmas. Bill?
Just one quick thing, I had a complaint from somebody about the signs located, it's not in my district, Blue Jay and Sand Hill. Apparently there's a sign that says straight to Guyton, right to Rankin, and then there's a, anyway, there's some signage there directing to the cities that they feel like need to be looked at. Old and come down Sand Hill all day, as you're approaching Blue Jay, there's a sign that says straight to Guyton and right to Rankin.
They want to take it down? What's the issue? They want to take, remove it, or?
They will, I don't know, they said they can't, you can't really read them.
Oh, you can't read it?
Oh.
It's just in bad shape. You got you.
I'm going that way tomorrow. That's your area.
They often call there.
Everybody knows, but
That was full. That's not the
it's not great. Everybody knows.
Yes.
What you got?
Two things for Westwood I just want to mention. One, just because it just popped in my brain, Toss. Stephanie, can you give Toss the contact for the lady that is still not happy about her drainage? That the board has said they don't feel the same way about it? Because when I talk to Toss, he goes in depth with me about the engineering of it, but I would like for you to talk to her directly about what the commission has said and what you understand about the engineering of it, because it's out of my expertise as far as that goes, so if you would do that. And then the second thing, I just want to do a reminder that we've moved the abandonment of property issue to the next meeting, so please be in mind about what your thoughts are on that. That's it.
The only thing I had, toss out that mentioned to you, the striping over there from Honey Ridge.
Yes, sir.
Did they ever get anything done over there?
I don't think they've done it. I got with Carol and they are to take care of it. The biggest problem with striping is there's no local contractors there in Columbus and somewhere else, so it's hard to get them here for just one thing. So the next time they come in, he's gonna get that taken care of. I did bring it up, and it was our fault. We left it out of the bid package. You know, when we did striping, we forgot to put the hatching in there. It was my fault. So he didn't do it. That was his call.
He's aware of it, just I'll be.
He's aware of it, he's gonna get taken care of.
What was the speed limit on Honey Ridge Road before?
It was 35, I believe. Well, let me stop right here. 35, it's posted at 35.
It's 35 now, right?
It's posted at 35.
I'm having people tell me that thing's been 45 forever, why we reduce it to 35, and I thought it was 35 all the time.
Posted at 35.
Okay.
So it's posted inaccurately?
Define it accurately.
I'm just listening to how you're saying it.
Well, we need to determine what it's supposed to be. I mean, with that.
I know what it's supposed to be. It's posted at 35.
Okay. Then that's what it should be.
It's on our radar program at 45.
Oh,
They didn't change the permit, they just decided to change the sign, but that was
They being who?
the board.
Them.
My previous board, several years ago, at the behest of a then sitting commissioner.
well, with the bridge being like it is,
That's for safety purpose.
and with the hairpin curve, and the fact that we can't enforce anything less than 10 miles over, 45 is we can't write them a ticket for less than 45.
Correct. I'm not saying that they did it in error, in judgment, they just should have changed
No,
the permit as well.
well, if it's right, it's right, if it's wrong, it's wrong, if the board needs to do something about it.
In other words, if we need to go, if we feel we need to keep it 35 and change the permit, then
I would ask that you
You
reach
know,
out.
let me check that. We may have actually made that change on the last time we updated them. Let me verify that. It was 45, it was posted at 35, but it seems like we may have actually made that change the last time we made the permit revision.
Well, we need to be clear with our permit and with what it is, and I would think we would need to reach out to the sheriff and ask their opinion on what they think it needs to be.
Yeah, you need to say that.
That's it.
Then we'll get a executive session. Yeah.
8:22.
Who is it?
I saw the Donald Trump show.
Oh,
I know, I have to watch it.
Just continue on with that. I'll get back with y'all on that. I can't put my hands on it right this second.
Anybody else? Lee, you got anything you want to say?
No, sir.
Just looked like you had something on your mind. All right, go to that motion, Mr. Kiefer.
Make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, property, and pending litigation.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We stand so adjourned.
All right, y'all got me for 15 minutes in executive session.
We have an executive session. All right, folks, back in session. Anybody got anything else to bring before this board? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. I have a motion by Commissioner Kiefer, a second by everybody else.
I need somebody.
All in favor?